Hello, comrades, and welcome back to the Ushanka Show. Are you ready for another story about life in Soviet Union? I hope you do. But before we start another part about Soviet schools, I would like to say thank you to my patrons who support my channel through patreon.com. Thank you so much, Sam, Steven, Taylor, Marianne, and Craig, for your support. It's greatly appreciated. And now I'll start the story about me going to school. It's kind of strange, but I still remember pretty well that day of September 1st, 1978, the day I went to school for the very first time. As I said in my previous video, September 1st was always the first day of school, except when it was on the weekend, and that was the famous day of knowledge. Of course, that time I was very excited because for a kid, it's kind of like a big step forward. From a kid, you become a pupil, школьник. And that day, my dad took me to school. And I kind of tried to calculate it. It seems like from September till May, going to school for 6 days a week, it was approximately 200 days in a year that I attended school, which means 10 years of 200 days. So that was my first day of next 2,000 days of schooling. But I was excited because I became a pupil. Of course, later on, as every other normal kid, I wasn't happy about going to school. But that day I was very excited. My dad walked me to school, which was pretty close, and you could see that on this map. And we only had, I believe, only 3 or 4 lessons. Our school finished early, around noon, and my dad met me again by the school, and he told me that he overheard the high schoolers chatting, that they envy for the kids who just went to school today for the very first time, первоклассники, first graders, because they finished school so early. And I was chuckling, I found it funny. But later I remember myself thinking the same thing, like, oh, those lucky first schoolers, they only have school for a short period of time and they're done by noon. So for the next 2,000 days of school in Kiev, I always walked to school and from school, except for the short period of time in 3rd grade when we moved early spring. But I had to finish the 3rd grade in my school number 69, so I had to take a public transportation to get from a new apartment back to the old area where we used to live and attend the school. Otherwise, I forgot to mention in the previous video, we did not have school buses. I was totally not familiar to this whole thing of school buses and school busing and all the additional rules, how the driver is supposed to act. You have to stop when it starts blinking yellow, and then red light, everyone has to stop. It was totally unfamiliar territory for me as a driver. Well, I never drove back in Ukraine. My parents never owned a car. I never owned a car. And we never had school buses, so it was a business of walking to school and from school. And in fact, when my mother was attending school back in the village, her village had only school that covered from 1st to 8th grade. And if you remember from my previous video, 8th grade it was kind of like a cutoff. 9 and 10 was a high school. So she had to go to different village, I won't say next door, but it was about maybe 3 or 4 miles away. So she had to walk with her friends every day to the other village to attend the school and then walk back. No matter rain or shine, snow or rain, she had to walk. There were no school buses in the village also. I found a picture of me in the 3rd grade. So this is 1981 photo, and I'm finishing the 3rd grade. And if you see this picture, you could see a little bit my uniform, and I already have a red tie around my neck, so I already became a pioneer. So in the 1st grade, I became Октябрёнок, the October kid, which was the 1st and 2nd grade. And somewhere in the middle of the 3rd grade, I joined the pioneers, and started wearing this red galstuk, red tie. And there's another picture. It's also third grade. This is my class, and it's total of 41 kids. And you could see our teacher Irina Vasilievna on the background, and further in the background, school is actually on the left, and on the far back, that's the standard 9-story high apartment building that we had thousands and millions probably all over Soviet Union and in Kiev as well. So there's my teacher in the background, and I will let you try to find me. And as you see, we have kind of like праздничная форма. I even don't know how to say it in English, but all the girls are wearing these white shirts, so that's kind of like a celebrating kind of uniform, праздничная форма, and we were wearing white shirts with our suits, so that would be like more like official form, and most of the kids are pioneers. So you can imagine one teacher for 41 kids, so it's really hard to have like a personal attention to each kid, right? And I said there was pretty much a play up system where a teacher was mostly concentrating on kids who were advancing well through classes, and the rest was just coming along for a ride. So we had approximately, maybe out of this 41 kid, we had approximately maybe 10 or so the ones that were getting excellent grades and good grades. Then we had a big pack of middle, like троечники, and then a couple kids who were really struggling through school. And I remember there's one of these kids, even in the third grade, he had like really hard time reading. He was really slow, but still he was attending a regular class and going to school with us. And he probably in 8th grade he left the school and became a worker or something like that. So let's take a look together what did the kids in the first grade of the Soviet school were studying. I actually found my dnevnik, so this is like a day planner. So that's a 1978-1979 study year, and it's actually, as I said, I was in Ukraine, but this is a day. This day planner is actually printed on Russian language, and there's the rules about how to keep this day planner. It tells you that in the beginning of the year, the pupil is supposed to fill up the cover and put his name. Then he daily is supposed to write down his homeworks, like what he's supposed to do, and they should be placed in the area for that specific day when it needs to be done. Then when the teacher gives you a grade, оценку, so the teacher has his own called class journal, and that's what she puts the grades, and also at the same time she's supposed to put the same grade in the day planner and sign it. And you could see this on this photo. There's my grades and the signature of the teacher. And interestingly, the teacher was always using red pen, so you could tell where the pupil are writing and where the teacher's grades were always, and signatures were always in red pen. Now also the rule number 4 that now besides the teacher we had this thing called like a class leader. So one of the teachers will be in charge of the specific class, and he's a классный руководитель. So he will be like class manager, I would say. And in the first, second, and third grade we had this Irina Vasilievna. She was our teacher, and also she was our class manager, so she was doing both things. Later we'll have a lot of different teachers covering different subjects, but one of them will be assigned to our class as a class manager. So class manager, she's supposed to trace and track and make sure that this day planner being correctly kept by pupil, and in the end of each week she or he will mark how many lessons the pupil missed because he was sick or something like that. And so number 5, it says that any comments about pupils, like his attitude or how he was acting up or creating some troubles, there has a specific spot where the teacher's supposed to write it and sign. Rule number 6, and the end of each week, parents supposed to check their kids' day planner and sign it. So verify, yes, I checked my kid progress for this last week. And also the rule number 7, that all the notes in this day planner should be neatly written and making look everything good. So it looks like in the beginning of my school days, like starting from September 11, my mother was actually put in the schedule, and later I started doing it. And so let's see. The schedule was basic, and you see we had 4 lessons a day at that time. Later there'll be 5 and 6 because there's the room. And you could tell this day planner was already designed for 6 school days, so starting from Monday and they go all the way to Saturday. So for example, Monday, September 11, the first class was чтение, reading. Second one was called письмо, which is like kids learning how to write, penmanship. Then math will be lesson number 3. And the 4th lesson will be changing each day. So first 3 looks like they were the same every day. We had reading, then writing, then math. Otherwise, the number 4 on Monday was truth, which is labor. So that was some kind, I don't recall honestly what we've been doing in the first grade as the labor training, but that's what it was on schedule. I think will be later they'll be, learning how to fix things with a hammer, and girls be learning how to cook. But I think it was like 8th grade, and we started doing it 8 and 7. On Tuesday we had рисование, which is drawing. So we were drawing different pictures. On Wednesday was физкультура, physical education. So we'll go to gym. Thursday again we have tруд. Again we got labor education. Then Friday, the 4th activity again, физкультура, physical education. And on Saturday, the last lesson, number 4, will be singing. So this is how what the kids were studying in the beginning of their school days, very first months of the school. And then, as we mentioned earlier, on the bottom of the page, you have spot for the teacher to write different comments, and then place for his signature and place for my parents' signature. And here there's the page with my probably very first bad grade. If you remember, 5 is excellent, 4 is good, 3 is satisfactory, and 2 is failed. And I assume I probably got this 2 because I forgot to bring my uniform. And looks like maybe my mother forgot to write on that day that we had a physical education, and I didn't bring my uniform, and as a result, teacher gave me unsatisfactory grade, which is very sad. Now we're jumping into February of 1979, so several months later, after New Year. This is my handwriting, so as you see, of course, we all learn how to write cursive. And now I'm filling pages by myself in my day planner. And also I have homeworks. So for example, it tells you what pages to read for the Russian language, what tasks to perform for the math, and stuff like that. And of course, in the end of each week, there'll be поведение, which you kind of can, like how you behaved during the week. And my parents were pretty mean. They always wanted for me to have 5, excellent. And if I had even 4, I could be in trouble. So this is how the day planner of the first grader look like? The main challenge for me personally in the first grade was the fact that I'm a left-handed person, and that created big trouble because, and it's interesting, I recall using ink pens in the first grade, but looking at my stuff, all I see is actually ball pen. But anyway, since I was left-handed, I was trying to write with the left hand. So my teacher asked my mother to help to switch me to the right hand. And so of course it was very challenging. So every time I'll be sitting home doing homework, especially practicing penmanship and writing cursive, like you could see on these pictures, my mom will sit next to me at the desk, at the table at home, holding a ruler. So I'll be writing, and every time I try to switch a pen from the right hand to the left hand, she will gently smack me on the hand, makes me switch back. And when I tell this story to my wife, she's just simply horrified how it's possible, how you can be so mean. But a teacher actually asked my mother, and like other parents who kids were lefties, that please help me. We need to switch your kid to the right hand because, if you write with the left hand, the way we write, we kind of tend to smudge the fresh ink. And be honest, I'm thankful to my mother that she helped me to switch to the right hand, because now I can easily write with either hand. I can write with the right hand, and I have a really neat handwriting, and I can write with the left hand also as the right hand. And later in school, that was my way of showing off. I will just stay in the middle of the blackboard, and I will just start writing with the left hand, and I switch chalk to my right hand, and I'll be just writing like that. And I could impress girls with that skill. And here we're looking at my practicing of penmanship. So there'll be the way that shows you pre-printed how to write different letters, and then it's your homework to copy it and make it exact size and exact angle, and then of course teacher will give you grades. So this is the big deal. When my daughter Sasha, she's lefty, so when I told my wife that let's switch her to the right hand, she just said there's no way in the world we're doing it. And I feel bad because every time I see my daughter or somebody else writing with the left hand, and they have their, like even President Obama, he's a lefty, the way they hold the pen and write, I was like, oh my goodness, all I needed to do is just your parents to be a little bit more proactive and switch you to the right hand with your kid, and you won't have this weird way of writing things. And actually I remember there was a little bit of the shock for me when I came to the United States, as seeing people writing this funny way with the left hand, because I don't remember anyone writing with the left hand back in Soviet Union, because every kid was switched to the right hand with the help of teacher and a parent with the ruler sitting at home. And here it's kind of funny, this page is my another bad grade, another 2 dvoika I got, and the only way I can explain it, I had a brain fart. So I had this homework practicing handwriting, and I needed to write a lot of words with the letter E, or we say in Russian "ye", but it looks like English E. And for some reason, as I said, I had a brain fart, I was putting letter E instead of E. So all these words were with the mistake, except my mom's name Yelena. Lena, I wrote it correctly, Yel. Otherwise, I made it all wrong and I got the bad grade. So this is another, my second probably, because I was a good pupil generally, but this is my second bad grade in the first grade of school. And here's one of my notepads, тетрадка for math. And it's also first grade, and I think I had several of them, but this is the one I found. So this is towards the end of the year, April 2nd, and remember I mentioned in my previous video, if you watched it, that I think we had way more homeworks and just generally way more advanced studying in Soviet school comparing what I see here in America. So this is a first grade, 7-year-old kids. As you see, we are already dealing with unknown numbers, axes. So my homework, you see, like class, we had классная работа, which is work at class in school. So you see, like 15 minus x equals 6, and then you find what x was, and then you write again the whole task. Then another question here, task about helicopters. So there were 8 helicopters, and some left unknown x, and only 3 remained on the field. So how many helicopters left? And I found the answer 5. So this is first grade homeworks. I'll just kind of show you several shots. And of course, there's already distances. I'm comparing what is more, 7 centimeters or 10 centimeters. So this is the first grade, comrades. So I think comparing what I saw with my kids, we were doing in first grade, and my kids here in America were doing in the third grade. And of course, teacher gives you grades here, and also if he doesn't like, if it's not clean, don't stay in lines. So they will write comments about it. So this is how the math looked in the first grade in Soviet schools. And now let's take a look at the tabel. As one of my viewers commented, we can translate it as the scorecard. So in the end of the year, well, actually we've been using it during the whole year, but this is your report of your scores for the year. So we had 4 quarters, right? And I'm not sure why I don't have any grades for the second quarter. Maybe our teacher was sick, for some reason it's missing. But on the cover, again, it's on Russian language, although it's Ukrainian schools, and it's printed for Ukraine because it has the Ministry of Education of Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. And there are also rules here on the left that the tabel is supposed to be filled up by your class manager. In the end of each quarter, the class manager is supposed to give this tabel, this scorecard, to the pupil, and then it needs to come back to school on the first day of next quarter with the signature of the parent. And the tabel is supposed to be kept in school. And there's that point number 3. So it's actually talking about what grades you get in. So you got 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Although, as I mentioned, I rarely seen 1s. 2 is already bad enough. 2 you already failed. 1 is like failed pathetically. And also your behavior, поведение, had 3 levels. Примерное, which is excellent. Then you got удовлетворительное, which is okay. And неудовлетворительное, which is failed. And in the end of the year, school year, tabel, the scorecard, was all filled in, and with the signature of the school director of the school and a stamp supposed to be given to the pupil and to the parents. But as you see, they skipped, and I didn't get a signature of the director of the school or the stamp. And so let's take a look at the grades. So see what kids in Kiev, Ukraine, in Soviet Ukraine were studying in the first grade. So we got Russian language, Russian literature, then we had Ukrainian language, no Ukrainian literature, just Ukrainian language, and math. And you see this scorecard kind of pre-printed for several different grades. So there's a bunch of subjects which we didn't study, but they're ready for the different. So if people go to like 7th grade or 8th grade, they'll get other subjects. Then we had изобразительное искусство, which is like arts, and more like colorings and drawing pictures. You got music, physical education, and the labor education. And then you have your behavior, PR. Here, примерное means excellent. signatures of the teacher on the bottom and my parents' teacher. So this is the first grade. Now this one is the second grade. The difference is now we have on the top of Ukrainian language, we also have Ukrainian literature, still have math. Then we added природоведение, which is kind of like a basic biology, but it's general, like you start talking about trees and rain and weather, природоведение. Then you still have your arts, music, physical education, and that's it. So this is the second grade. And now this one is the third grade I got. So the third grade, it was 1980, 1981. So this around time when Reagan got elected, right? Because for some reason I remember when I lived still in the old apartment, I remember Cold War, and I was kind of happy that Carter lost and Reagan became a president of the United States, because for some reason I thought it was going to cancel the Cold War and there'll be peaceful life. And that didn't happen. We all remember. So not much change comparing with the previous years. It's just a name change. So instead of природоведение, here the name естествознание, but I think it's also like a general knowledge about nature and stuff. So this is so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, total of 10 subjects that we studied as a kids in the third grade. And I said from first to third grade we had only one teacher who was also our class manager, and this is the lady who handled total of 41 kids. Well, this is the end of my show. I hope you enjoyed the program. I always appreciate you putting likes, and please ask questions, because it will help me to create new videos on this topic. So anything you think I didn't cover, you want to learn some more, please let me know, and we will see you soon. Hello comrades, and welcome back to the Ushanka Show. Today we're going to return back to the story of my childhood. If you follow my channel, you should remember that we had an important event happen in my family. We managed to get a new apartment, and that's when we got Soviet-style mortgage. So we moved from the tiny single-room, like a studio-type apartment, Gostinka, which was only 10 square meters. And we got 3-room apartment on the second floor of brand new apartment building. And its dimensions were close to like 67 square meters, so almost 7 times bigger size of the apartment. It had 2 balconies, and it had a separate toilet from the bathroom. So in Soviet Union, it was a big deal in apartments if you have a combined bathroom. So you have like here in America, most of them is combined. You have a bathroom, like a shower or bath, and a toilet next to each other, and it's normal thing. In Soviet Union, big deal was if you have a separate санузел, so-called, so your toilet is in a little tiny separate room, and the bath is a different room with a sink. So our apartment had separate bathroom, so-called separate санузел, so that was amazing. But we got ourselves in a debt for the next 15 years. So, and just like here in America, well, not exactly like that. We had a choice, so we could wait for about 20 years in order to get a free apartment, or, bite the bullet and go into the big giant debt, into Soviet mortgage, and it was interest free. And for the next 15 years, we had to cough up, I think, like 50 rubles a month, which was a lot of money for what my parents were making. So it was close to 30% of our family's income was going just for the payment. But of course, our lifestyle, you'd call it, got way, way better, because now I had my own separate room. Parents had their own separate room. It was nice. But of course, there's always a price, even in Soviet Union, to have nice things. And since we moved to the new area, I had to switch schools. We moved, I believe, sometimes in the spring of 1981, so I had to travel back to the old school for a couple of months to finish my 3rd grade, and then I started my 4th grade in a new school. It was also a brand new school. The whole area was brand new. There was just a bunch of brand new apartment buildings built around there. It's an area called Южная Борщаговка, South Borщagovka, and it was a brand new school, number 223. And that's when I started my 4th grade in the fall of 1981. So today I would like to show you my score table or score papers and to kind of discuss what the Soviet kids were studying in Soviet Ukraine in the 4th grade. We started schools at 7. So 4th grade would be about 11 years old, 10 to 11 years old. So I attended 4th grade from 1981 till 1982. And the 4th grade is the grade that we had kids had major changes. From the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, we had, same teacher that was teaching us all the subjects. We had one classroom that we go there every day for 4 or 5 lessons, and the same teacher would teach us drawings and math and Russian language and history and so on. 4th grade, that was the big change. Now we had to switch, go from class to class, and we had different teachers. So there'll be one teacher covering Ukrainian language and Ukrainian literature. Another teacher will be specialized in Russian language, Russian literature. Then math teacher, history teacher, and so on. And we will have one teacher who, besides teaching the subject, also will be in charge of our class, so-called классный руководитель, so like class leader. So that lady would be kind of watching over us and doing all the paperwork, organizing parents' meetings. But otherwise, the huge change is that we had to attend different classes. So that was very unusual because, after 45 minutes of class, you have to get up and go to a different class and take the spot again and have 15 minutes break, then you start another class. So let's take a look at my tabel from 1982. That's amazing. I'm so thankful to my mother that she never threw away all those papers. She kept it, and now they became super handy. So this is how the standard tabel scorecard looked for Ukraine at that time. It says the Ministry of Education of Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. And there's a specific rules. It says that tabel must be filled only by class leader. In the end of every quarter, class leader should give this tabel to a pupil that takes it to his parents, and then he's supposed to return it back to the school leader on the first day of the next quarter with the signatures of parents. So you present your tabel to parents so they see your progress during the quarter and they need to sign. Grading still the same system, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So 5 is the excellent, 2 was already failure. It was, and 1, I had only one person was given away, I would say once, like if you perform super horrible. Usually 2 means you already failed. So 5 is excellent, 4 is good, 3 is okay, 2 is not okay, not satisfied. So the official name 3 was satisfactory, удовлетворительно, 2 was unsatisfactory, and 1 was, I was not even named, just you failed. And also they put the grade for your behavior, and that one would be in words like excellent, зразкова, it's all Ukrainian language here. Then you got задовільна, which is okay, and незадовільна fails. So they also judge how you act in school by 3 levels. You're doing great, you're okay, and you're not okay. And in the end of the school year, all this is filled in with signatures, and director of the school must sign a tabel too. It goes back to parents. So during the year, Tabil remains at school, and the end of the year, Tabil goes back to parents. That's how my mom kept it. Well, let's take a look what subjects did kids study in Ukraine. And, in Russia, they didn't study Ukrainian language, of course, but in Ukraine we did. So we had Ukrainian language, and as you can see, I excelled. I had all 5s. Then we had Ukrainian literature, same thing. Russian language, I had 4, which was good. And I honestly don't know why I had problems with Russian language, because I was actually a Russian-speaking Ukrainian. Like, my first language was Russian. But for some reason, I never get 5 out of Russian language. Then Russian literature, also all excellent. I was still doing great in math. Only one time I had 4, the rest of 5s. Then we had history. Prirodoznavstvo is like a nature, so you discuss about earth and rains, oceans and stuff like that. Foreign language, another big change. We started foreign languages in the 4th grade, and I studied English. When my mother went to school, the majority of kids were learning German. Then later, after Cold War started, I guess, they Germany is not relevant anymore. Our main competition, my enemy, is America now, so we need to start teach kids English. Then we had образотворче мистецтво, which is art. Another mystery for me now. I don't recall why I had a problem with art, because I'm actually not too bad in drawing, but I had only solid 4. Music and singing, I did pretty good there, although my wife tells me right now that I'm a horrible singer. But I had excellent marks then. And I recall we did some singing, but most of it was our teacher would tell us to memorize another song. So that was pretty much like memorizing rhymes. So the next time you come back and he checks that everyone knows the words of the song, and then we do singing. So it was mostly about memorizing. Physical education, физическая культура, or as we call it, физра. I did okay there. And labor education. And labor education had a separate class, had the basic tools, so you kind of learn how to handle hammer, how to make different things from wood. And then the one with the waters, that's your attitude and how you acting in school, and I had excellent there. Then I got signatures of my teacher, and looks like my parents, it's my mother's signature. She signed only for first 2 quarters, and then she for some reason missed it. And then on the bottom it says, hey, he got transferred to the 5th grade. Now, for some reason, what's missing here, it's also the 4th grade was the very first time when we had the final exams, final tests in the end of the year. And that was a tough one. So I'm looking back, man, school in Soviet Union was way so much harder than modern schools here in America. It was quite stressful for kids in May, because you finish in the year and you need to start in the same time, start studying for your finals. So for example, in the 4th grade we had only 1 test, 1 exam or finals. It was in math. And usually they give you the list of questions. So they'd be for example, you have 36 kids, so they say, okay, you're gonna have 36 questions. They're gonna be written on the pieces of paper and laying face down on the table. And you pick one of them randomly, so you don't know which question you're gonna get. And then you go to the blackboard and you just do your thing. You basically have oral exam, oral board. You by the blackboard you draw whatever the problem is, find the solution, and then the teachers ask you questions and you answer questions, then you get your grade. So that was really stressful. So besides studying a lot in May, which it's spring, you want to be outside and play, but you have to sit and study. At least I did study, because I was quite a nerdy dude. I'm still a nerd. And then you go for that, you're supposed to dress super nicely, maybe bring flowers for your teachers, then you wait for your turn to go pick the question and then answer on the board. I remember I was very, very nervous. I was very successful. I picked actually the ticket, the question that I was really good at, and I just nailed it. I got my excellent mark, 5. So what's missing, it's supposed to have a 5 by math, and then there's have a final score. What's interesting trick, I later started doing a lot of it. For example, if you have in 4, 4, 4, and only 1 5, so in 4 quarters, you have only 1 excellent grade, and the rest are 4s. If you score excellent on a test, your final score will be excellent. And that's the trick I started doing, because I don't want to study super hard all year. So I picked usually the 2nd grade, which was the shortest, and I study really hard, get excellent grade for that grade. Then I study, so the rest of the time, I got 4, but then I nail the test, get 5, and my final score will be excellent. So that was that little dirty trick I used to trick the system with this tests. So this is what we did in the 4th grade. Unfortunately, I couldn't find my day book, so-called dnevnik, for the 4th grade. I have for the one for the 5th, but not for the 4th. But this is what the kids were studying in Soviet Ukraine in the 4th grade. So I would say it's pretty intense. So, all right. So this is my little introduction to 1981-82, and this is a little story about school. And as I mentioned, quite often people asking me questions about days of the 90s when the Soviet Union was about to collapse. We'll get to it sooner or later, but I'm trying to build my story in kind of chronological order. So we're covering topics. Right now it's early 80s, the schools, the housing, music and stuff like that. And eventually we'll get to the 90s. So please be patient. And don't forget to like this video, share with your friends. And as always, I appreciate your support on patreon.com. Hello, comrades, and welcome back to Ushanka Show. Well, we got distracted for quite a long time, but finally I decided, okay, it's time for us to come back to this story of mine. I was trying to have a story from my birth back in July of 1971 and going through the daycare, kindergarten, and nursery, then kindergarten, then school. And where we stopped was the 4th grade. So now we're looking at my Shodennik, which is like a note. You can translate it as a diary, but this is your like a notebook that you keep track of your school subjects. So Shodennik is Ukrainian word for the diary. 5th grade. So I started school at the age of 7, 1st grade. So this is 5th grade. So I'm 12-year-old. And I started school in 1979. So this is 1984. I'm going to the middle school, number 223, Kiev, Ukraine. So this is a standard form. Let me move a little bit away. I think I showed those before, right, for the 4th grade. But this is thanks to my mom, she kept all my Shodennik in my diaries, school diaries. And this particular book was, it's the standard of 1978 right here. And the price was 14 kopecks, so 14 cents. And it's Ukrainian version of the diary. And I thought about English word, but it's not notebook, but so this is what you keep your subjects. It's your school planner, pretty much. This is what the correct word to say about it. So let's take a look what we got here. All right, so we'll open the first page, and here's a standard form, rules how to maintain your diary. So in the beginning of your school year, you must fill up the cover of the book and also enter the names of your subjects and schedule of your lessons. Every day a pupil must write down what homework they must to do, and the homework should be homework task should be placed on a day on which they must be performed, or by which date it must be performed. Then, of course, teacher, after you do whatever you do in class, they give you a mark. In already mentioned many times, we had pretty much 5 was excellent, so that's A. 4 was good, which is B. 3 was C, which is satisfactory, and 2 you failed. So the teacher must put this number in the diary and also must sign it. And then, of course, remember we had one teacher who was in charge of our class, like I think somebody mentioned it's called home teacher. So she must watch that everything is correctly, and then in the end of the week she will mark how many days or how many lessons the pupil missed. Same, there's a spot to put the comments about any like how the student was behaving. In the end of each week, parents should take a look at the diary and put their signature, and all the notes in this diary should be done correctly and done neatly. So this is the rules how to maintain the school book diary. Not the school book, but we'll call it diary. Next page here is kind of like a general overview of my teachers. So in order to remember the teacher's name, I put the subjects in here, so you can pretty much, this is the subject that kids were studying, learning in the 5th grade. So this is, as I said, 12-year-old. First one is botanics. So that's part of like a biology, but here we study only plants and trees. I barely remember the teacher, Ludmila. Math. Next subject, Sophia Yurina. I believe she was a Jewish teacher. Man, she was so mean. She was really mean teacher. To get an excellent grade from her, to get 5 was extremely hard, and she forced us to, when you memorize something, she's just like, well, if you can memorize it, you have to write down like 20 times and show me. Then we got Trud, which is labor education. Next one is geography. All I remember about the teacher, she had a really nice big rack. Sorry about that, but it's all I remember. Physical education, физическая культура. So that's like called like physical culture. I was in love with his daughter, this teacher. She was in my class. She was very cute. Next one, Taran Ekaterina. Kind of scary. Maybe some of these people already dead by now, because this is, as I said, 1984. So this is what, 40 years ago? Oh my goodness. Yep, it's quite a chance. Quite a few of these people already died. Russian language and literature. Don't remember all this lady. Then you got Ukrainian language and literature. I remember Nikolai Yakovlevich. We had give him a nickname, Bold Island, because when we were already in school waiting for our class, so we would be on a second floor, and so we kind of up high. And when we saw him approaching school, he had a bald spot on the top. So you see his head, and he has, hair, and then there's the bald round spot right in the middle of his head. So he was called Bald Island. History. Her daughter, I think she was also a director. Later she became a director of school, so like a school principal. We call it director. Her daughter studied in our class, and all the boys thought she was so hot, like it was a popular thing to be in love with her. I didn't like her. Next one is foreign language. So interesting, we were studying English, but it was not called English language, it was called foreign language, Inyaz. And the Gelman, Rima Arkadina, she was a Jewish teacher, and she actually moved to America in the early 90s, and I met her in Chicago, like in 1996, 97. Was a nice to meet her again. So she moved to United States there was that special immigration law in America that a lot of Jewish people left Soviet Union. Then we had Risovania, which is like drawing. Don't remember that lady at all. And then we had music. So this is the subject that Soviet kids were studying in the 5th grade. So it's a 12-year-old kids, botanics, math, labor, geography, physical culture, Russian language, Russian literature, Ukrainian language, Ukrainian literature, history, foreign language, drawing, and music. So foreign language also, there was other schools were learning German, but since I think like it was big switch in 60s and 70s since our potential enemy became United States. So from German they switched and started teaching kids English. Okay, and here we got the schedule, the weekly schedule for each class. So, and this is the tragedy. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So this is the proof that Soviet children had to go to school 6 days a week. Yeah, I remember I'm getting ready to go to school on Saturday, and my parents at home, they have a weekend, and I was like, this is not fair. This is horrible. So as you see, the classes started at 8:30 in the morning, and then they go till 9:15. So lessons were for 45 minutes. And apparently, you know what? I thought we had a break between classes 15 minutes, but it looks like we had only 5 minutes between first and the second class. Then we got 9:20 to 10:05. And then we had between second and third, we had 15 minutes break. Interesting. So first will be only 5 minutes, and then will be 15. Maybe I made a mistake writing it. But check it out this. This is a really interesting detail. So I'm a 5th grader. Look how I write time. 12 o'clock, 1300, 1400. So you see, in Soviet Union, we always used so-called military time. Where's my fingers? Military time. I didn't know it's called military time. I explained it in my book, American Diaries, 1995. I was shocked that most Americans had no idea what 1500 or 1600 means. This is a 5th grade, and I'm already... this is a normal way of writing time. It's, my classes in school were over at 1400. So you see, usually we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lessons per day. 2 days a week, we had 6 lessons per day. So the longest will be all the way in school till 1400, which is 2 o'clock, for those who don't know. Otherwise, the class will be over at 1310, which is 1 o'clock and 10 minutes. Alright, so we're going to take a look at the very first day of school. Schools in Soviet Union always started on September 1st, except if it's on Sunday. So, this time, you see, like at Monday, Tuesday were still August, so Wednesday was September 1st. And it's interesting, so I have a little comment on drawing. It says, not ready for a lesson. So a teacher wrote the comment, maybe I forgot pencils or paper, so I didn't bring stuff. So I wasn't ready for that class, and that's how the notes look. And usually teachers write in red. And it's interesting also, the first lesson was actually not an actual lesson, it's called Leninsky Urok. So that's Lenin lesson. So we were talking about Lenin. And then Russian language, then math, and then drawing, and English language. And then, of course, on the top right here, let me move this camera a little bit so we can see. So it has a month, September. Then you got a list of the classes that I have that day. On Thursday it's geography, English language, math, Russian language, and physra, which is a physical education. And I write my homework. She says English language, it's a page number 24. And looks like I had to do number 1 and number 17 exercises, then math, Russian language, and a little comment says bring the uniform for the physical education. So I need to bring my sweatpants and stuff like that. So this is, and then in the end, this is the signature of my teacher, my like home teacher, so the teacher who's in charge of our class, and then my parents must sign too, that they verified that how my week went. So I was a quite nerdy, smart kid, and you could see there's my grades. I got 5 on Ukrainian language. I got 5 on English. Then I got again 5 on English. English I was always had 5. I always had A. So there's also somewhere A plus. And there's a cute little comment. I guess I didn't fill my diary properly, my notebook. So the teacher wrote the comment, fill up your diary. And then of course it's a teacher's signature, and there's my dad's signature. And I got 4 on math on this day. So now I want to show you, this is what drives me nuts. Like I compare my son Oliver, he's going to be 13, and they basically don't have any homework. That drives me nuts. So I just want to show you an example. Look, I told you the teacher of math was really mean. I have a 3, which is C. But check it out. This is my homework for Monday. So there's a 1, 2, 3 different home tasks and something else to learn. Next, so math, looks like we had every single day we had math, and every day there's a bunch of math problems I had to solve. So you come home and you gotta work those, you gotta solve them, and then my mom will check, make sure they have correct answers. Instant comment for my labor class. For some reason, I was late for class. So there's a comment. Опоздал на урок, late for class. And once again, math. More math. So this is, let's look at the Wednesday. So I had to have some kind of thing to do for Ukrainian language. Then I had to finish my drawing for drawing class. Then I had homework, 4 different tasks, and that task could have maybe like 5 or 6 exercises. So for example, different kind of whatever you study. So there'll be one style of exercise, maybe 5 different 6. So it's easy, hour, 2 hours a day in math work. Okay, and I got 5. How about that? I got A. Then you got Ukrainian language, Ukrainian literature. So usually in literature you read books or learn some poems. So I had to memorize some kind of poem. Then I had to do English, and I had to do Russian. So for example, this is what I had to do on Tuesday evening. I had to have a Ukrainian language done, Russian language done, English language done, memorize the poem, and do math, and finish some drawing. So we had a pretty hardcore schooling going. Here, geography, I had to memorize previous class. I had to learn new words in English. Once again, tons of homework and math. Then I had to write some words in Russian, and then I need to bring uniform for the school. So this is what I had to deal every day in school. So as you see, it's a lot of studying. So for me, it's definitely, we were busy. It was literally, I start my homework maybe at 5 or 6 p.m. and it's easy going all the way to like 8 and 9 to get all done. So we were having a lot of homework. I want to show you my week in November. Looks like I wasn't doing really well. So apparently, if you see this random question marks, so I forgot, for some reason I quit writing down my homework. So the teacher put a bunch of question marks like why you don't place what homework you're supposed to do. And then I'm not sure what happened, but I got 2, which is failed for the physical education. I think I forgot to bring my uniform, so it's automatically they give you F. Failing it, and then teacher write this comment, you must write down your homework, and she gave me F again, fail, or 2, and like say unsatisfactory, and my dad signed it right there. So yep, teachers were mean. We had to study 6 days a week, and we had a lot of homework. Another cute comment from the teacher of English says that I'm being distracted during lessons of English. Отвлекается на уроке. But I got 4, which I got B for the actual lesson, but For some reason, the teacher wasn't happy. And here, physical education, we were supposed to practice rolling back and forward. So, like, you roll forward, you roll backwards. Interesting. So, as you see, once again, a lot of homework. You might recognize familiar word, house. So there was some kind of exercise with the word house in translation to this word. Another mean comment from my math teacher. I got 2, which is D, and something about that I wasn't doing a really good job with my homework. Очень плохо работает, doing a poor job. Got 5 in physical education. Got another 5 in Ukrainian language. And you see, she was so mean, she just like crossed over and even put here. That lady. One time we actually, a couple of kids were so upset with her. They, she, during the winter, she comes, because everyone had to walk. No one had a car, none of our teachers. So everyone walked. So she would come in the winter boots, and then she would change to, comfortable, just regular shoes to wear in school because it's warm there. So we put the pins that you pin stuff to the wall. So we put it inside of her shoe and pointy things up. So when she put her shoes back on, we got our little payback for her being so mean. It's kind of interesting, and I don't remember, but you see, once in a while I had a poor grades. Like, this is Ukrainian language, and says I didn't come to school and I didn't have my homework done. So she gave me 2. She gave me D, I guess, right, or F, fail. And interesting, this is says that on a March 11, there's a parents-teachers conference, родительское собрание at 1900. Hey, who can tell right away what time is it? 1900? That's right, 7 p.m. So tells you when. So it's in the room number 103. First is like everyone gathered in the big hall, and then parents of our class will go to the cabinet number 103. We call the rooms cabinet. So at 1900 on Friday, my parents, usually my mom was going to go and listen about kids. And another interesting detail, and actually a lot of people who grew up with these diaries, school diaries, like I still do that. Like if I'm trying to picture what day of the week is, like today I'm making this video, I think it's May 2nd. So if I'm trying to think what day of the week will be May 9th, for example, I will think, okay, like today, May 2nd, it's Thursday. So in my mind, I'll have a page of this diary and be like, okay, so May 3rd is Friday, May 4th is Saturday, May 5th is not on the book because it's Sunday, then May 6th, Monday, May 7th. So in my head, I still use this kind of like a layout of my school diary to figure out which day of the week will be a specific day of the month. And apparently a lot of people who finished Soviet school who had these school diaries, they do exactly the same thing. So yeah, this is for some reason I got a unsatisfactory for my attitude at the physical education. Wow, I thought I was a good pupil, good student. So this is how we were learning stuff in the 5th grade. As I said, a lot of homework, and another, this I want to show you 2 details. So we had music, but what we did with music, it was mostly just learning a song. So it says learn the song. So I had to memorize the lyrics of the song, and we would just, first he will make everyone to just read it to make sure everyone knows it, then he plays the piano and we will sing that song. I hated the music for that reason, because it was nothing about teaching, okay, this is your mixed voice, it's your pitch voice, whatever. It was just like, okay, tell me the lyrics, all right, checks all class, all last 30 kids, then we know the lyrics, and then we're gonna sing that song once or twice, and he plays that tune on the piano. And you see here, that day was a good day. I had a good grades for everything. And pretty much the last page of the school diary. Okay, so this was 1982-1983 school year, and we had a separate. I was showing the two, like a school table that shows you all your grades, because we had 4 quarters. I think just like in America, in each quarter you got your grades. So this is what I put my grades, what I had from the first, second, and third grade. And of course they match the subjects. So I see I had Ukrainian language 455, Ukrainian literature all 5. So I was doing pretty well. I was always struggling with math. It's still a good grade. It's a B, solid B. So yeah, this is how it looked. And then of course we'll have final exams, and I think I got a little bit confused. I told you the very first test we had at 4th grade, but I think it was actually the 5th grade. I'll check in a second. I'll let you know. Okay, so you're looking at the tabel. So this is our official document of me finishing the 5th grade. And this is the symbol of Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. And the Ministry of Education of Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. My name, town, the rules how to fill this paperwork. But interesting, this is made for Ukraine, but it's in the Russian language. So that's interesting. All right, and so here we are. So this is my grades, and yeah, apparently we had a test in math. So you see here, actually I missed. All I needed to do is to have 1-5, 1A in one of these quarters, and I have a score excellent on my test, and I would get a final score excellent. But I didn't do it. I didn't figure out the trick yet. Later, that's what I would do. The shortest was the second quarter, so I'll study super hard. I'll get myself 5, which is A. Then I get A on the test, and my final score will be 5. Excellent, so I don't have to study that hard for the rest of the year, just because I could keep up easy to get 4, and I will have a trouble, so in test usually don't have a problem. And it says right here that I was transferred to the 6th grade. And here it's like how you behave in school. So примерно it's excellent. So I had 3 excellent and 1 was just satisfactory. And the final was excellent. I'm not sure what happened. Maybe I fell in love. Can't tell you, but yeah, this is what how I spent 1982 and 1983 in my 5th grade. I said a lot of homework, going to school every day, including Saturday, being home only on Sundays. Tough life of the Soviet student. And like this form was printed in 1980. But I said it's interesting. It is Ukrainian design, but it's in Russian language. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little introduction of the life of the poor Soviet student. As I said, we had to study a lot, we had to go to school a lot, and it blows my mind how little homework, how little school going on right now here in America. I don't know, man. I think it's way too easy. I don't think kids are being prepared to the reality of life, because it's getting harder and harder. Technology developing more and more, and kids are just spending less time learning. I don't know, man. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show, and as always, I'm interested to hear your comments, and you can share your experience in school. Tell me what you studied when you were in the 5th grade. Hello, comrades, and welcome back to Ushanka Show. Здравствуйте, товарищи. Today we're gonna make another video about Soviet education, and I'm gonna present you my дневник, my daily planner, which I had in the 6th grade. So this is 1983-1984 school year, Kiev, middle school number 223. And I was a student, ученик of the 6B class. So if I recall, we had 4 classes on the 6th grade. So there was A, B, C, and D. So we have total close to probably about 100 kids studying in the 6th grade. So usually it was quite a bit of kids, up to 30 kids per class. So let's take a look. What did we study in the 6th grade? First page, and it's interesting. We used to buy, it was available, this kind of like clear plastic pattern, letter pattern thing you can buy at this store. So then you can, color, make a really pretty letters. And this is same thing again. It says 6B class and my name, Sergey Polishchuk. Now, you know me by Sputnikov, which is my pen name, but my real last name is Polishchuk. And below there's the rules. I already showed it's in every day planner. It tells you pretty much rules how to keep this diary, as we call it, дневник, day planner. That the pupil's supposed to fill the cover, need to write the schedule, need to write the lessons and homework. Every day you need to, like number 2 says, every day you're supposed to write down what kind of homework you have. And you're supposed to put on a day when they were supposed to be done. Teacher should, besides putting the score, оценки, also need to sign to verify that was him. And then the классный руководитель, the teacher who is also in charge of your class, supposed to watch this diary. Keep on saying diary because дневник is the same word, дневник, for diaries and the school planners. So rules like that. And the end says everything needs to be neat and accurate. So here, list of our classes and list of our teachers. So we had physics. Furman Vladislav Iosifovich, he was Jewish, and I think he moved to Israel. Russian language and Russian literature, Ella Abramovna. By names you could tell the person like Russian, Ukrainian, or Jewish. So Ella Abramovna automatically tells you too that she was Jewish person, because Abraham, that's the only name that would have a Jewish people. Then we had Ukrainian language and literature. Then we had algebra and geometry. So here we go in hardcore. I think it's the first year in 6th grade when we started. It's not called mathematics anymore. It's called algebra. And Sonia Yurina, she also was Jewish man. She was a really mean teacher. History, geography. Now, botanica, I'm not sure how to translate correctly, but it's only studying plants. So, botanics maybe. Then you got English language. Rima Arkadievna, another Jewish teacher that she moved to the United States. Physra, physical education. Singing, and that's called penia. Then drawing and Trud. So, Trud is interesting. I didn't put the name of who was my teacher, but Trud was like labor education. So, girls were learning how to fix clothing, how to sew, how to cook. And the guys were working, making things from wood and metal. And it's already, I misspelled the name, so teacher corrected. I missed the so-called мягкий знак. So this is расписание уроков, so it's a schedule of classes. So the first class was starting at 8:30 in the morning, 45 minutes, 10 minutes between classes. So next class starting 9:25, and up to 6 lessons per day. So the last one is ending at 1400. So here you go. I already talked about it as silly military time. This is what we used every day back in the Soviet Union. So for me, it's the 6th grade. So I'm like 12-year-old kid, right? Let's see, 82, 83. So yeah, I'm 12, 13, and it's already using military time every day. There was no other way, so there we go. Schools in Soviet Union always started on September 1st, except when it fell on Sunday. So here we go on 19. Check again. In 1983, so I was 12. September 1st was on Thursday. So of course there was no homework at the very first day, and we started our first. So like September 1st, we hated. That was the worst day of your life, the day of knowledge when you started school. So then again, you have your class teacher sign in, and then my parents signed, my mom and my dad's signature, so they checked my planner. And first homeworks, I had to learn some poem for the Russian language, Russian literature, and I already got my first 4, which is good. 5 is excellent, 4 is good, 3 is satisfactory, and 2 is failure. And you see, second week of school, and it's already really heavy on homework. So we had pretty much, so this is 6th grade, and most days we already have 6 classes per day, so we are at school all the way till 2 p.m. And Botanica, I already had to bring gerbari, which is dry leaves you collect and dry them. I had to bring album for drawing рисование. I had to learn words for English. I need to learn poem in Ukrainian. I had homework in algebra, and I had homework in geometry. So this is pretty Monday is a hardcore. So you had, first 2 lessons are pretty easy, botanics and drawing. Then you got English, Ukrainian literature pretty easy. Then algebra, geometry, 2 classes in a row, just hard classes. So here again, math and physics in the end. So as you see, a lot of homework, a lot of classes. So we had, and 6 days a week. So we had to study really hard. And it's kind of cute. English language. Поведение неудовлетворение. So I didn't behave properly in that class. I'm not sure what happened, don't remember. I got 4, which is good. So I got a good grade, but teacher wasn't happy with my behavior in that class. And on Fridays, the 5th and the 6th lessons were truth. So it's a labor education. It says they need to bring uniform for that. In general, I was a really good pupil. I was хорошист, which means I had only 4 and 5. So good and excellent marks. But here, for some reason, I was not writing down homework. So all this red ink question mark. Usually teachers supposed to use red ink so it stands out. So you see all these question marks. And there's a comment on algebra. As I said, our algebra teacher was really mean, Sonia Yurievna. So he says, I didn't put the homework in and I didn't study the rules. So whatever the rules we had to study for algebra, I didn't study them. So she expressed her unsatisfaction. And there's a comment, write down your homework. And once again, signatures my parents. So once again, every week, a lot of homework. And it's kind of funny because now, like, my kids come from school, I'm asking, have any homework? Nope. Have any homework? Nope. So, like, what right now going on in school blows my mind because I had a pretty, I don't say miserable life, but every day it's at least 3 to 4 hours doing homework. For example, to get ready for Saturday, I had to prepare for physics. I had to do geometry, a bunch of exercises, something for Russian language, something for algebra, which I got 5, which is excellent. And look at this cute thing. So for singing, пение, we had to learn international. So this famous international song, Весь мир насилия мы разрушим до основания, а затем мы новый мир построим. Кто был ничем, тот станет всем. Still remember some words, but we had to actually learn that song for our singing class. So we had to learn a lot of poems. So for Russian literature, for Ukrainian literature. For example, here it says, and I kept the diary, the planner in Russian, everything in Russian, but for Ukrainian, it actually says in Ukrainian here, Вірш вивчити, я виріс на чужині. So I had to learn the poem. I grew up on чужина is like a foreign land. Then we had to study for geography how the the shape of the land relief affect the climate, so mountains or deserts. We studied story Taras Bulba in Russian literature. So my goodness, look at this for geometry for Saturday. How much homework! I had to do some physics. 2 geometry classes in one day. My goodness, I feel bad for myself. Looks like this week of the February I had a pretty good week. I had a lot of excellent marks. Ukrainian language, Ukrainian literature, I had 5 and 5. In geography, we had a topic of Canada. I got 5. I always liked geography. I was really enjoying geography. Russian language, I got 5. So 4 5s in one day. That's hardcore. All excellent grades. For history, we had to study about Czechoslovakia. Then another one for geography, I got another 5. So yeah, pretty good week right here. I'm not sure what happened here, but this is my mother's handwriting. So she, for some reason, filled the planner for me. And then I got the comment here, VD 2. So VD is ведение дневника. So maintaining my planner, I got unsatisfactory because for some reason I just didn't fill it up. But I had a lot of comments. People said I had a nice handwriting. So this is when I started practicing how small I can write so it can still be readable. So you see, pretty tiny, still pretty decent. Instant little comment below. February 21st at 8 o'clock at night, which is 2000, родительское собрание. So it's a parents teachers conference. Our parent teaching conference were hardcore too. All the parents were in one room and a teacher, so they will tell everyone will hear how every kid is doing. So it won't be like one-on-one that other parents don't know about other children performance. Teacher will be pointing like, ma'am, your kid is not good in this, your kid is not good in that. So parents were really embarrassed if your kid is not doing well because they were being in front of all the other parents. So let's go really quickly so you get an idea how the classes were lined up. Now, we had same class going to each class. So like my 6B class, I had same kids. We never changed. Like here in America every year, like kids being rotated between classes. So they always have new kids in a class. We had same class. So when I started the 4th grade, when we moved, I basically stayed with same kids all the way through the 8th grade. So every year, same kids in the class. And we go together to different rooms. So there'll be just different teachers teaching different subjects, but kids were all the same. Not like here in America, you have your schedule and every class you go, there'll be different kids. So that's a big difference. So let's take a look at what did we study each day. Alright, so on Monday we had first lesson was рисование, drawing. Which, we just had different tasks. Okay, we need to draw a jar with the fruits in it or something like that. So there'll be some specific task. And we used pencils mostly, coloring pencils. Sometimes we used paint, like water paint. Botanica, it's like learning about plants. In Yazo, it's interesting. We studied English, but it was called officially foreign language. Then we had Russian language and algebra. So every Monday will be the same for the whole year. Tuesday, Physical education. I had a comment bring the uniform. So like, sports pants and shorts, whatever, t-shirt. Russian language, history, geometry, and Ukrainian language. Wednesday, Ukrainian language, Ukrainian literature, geography, Russian language, physics. And it's interesting, it says классный час, so it's like a class hour. I think we would gather together with our class teacher and she will discuss our performance. On Thursdays, first lesson was algebra, then foreign language, botanics again, geography, Ukrainian literature. Fridays, algebra, history, physical education, Russian literature, and 2 lessons of labor education. Saturday, my goodness, going to school on Saturdays. Poor me. Physics, music, geography, algebra, and geometry. Really heavy day. Physics, algebra, and geometry in one day. So it's a lot of homework every time to be ready for Saturday. Music was really boring. It's pretty much the teacher will tell you to learn some new song, learn the words, and then we'll sing it together. And then he says, okay, good job. Now for next week, you need to learn this song. And that's it. Okay, so now let's take a look. How did I do in the 6th grade? So this is so-called tabel, which is end of the year results of your education, I guess you can say. So that's official form. And curiously, this one is specifically printed for Ukraine because it says the Ministry of Education of Ukraine, but it's in Russian. So that's interesting. I have a couple of them, they're in Ukrainian, but this one actually was printed in Russian, although it's specifically for Ukraine. It has a Ukrainian symbol. Yeah, I don't even think we talked about it, but it tells you comments that your grades are marked as 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then your behavior is примерная, which is excellent, satisfactory, удовлетворительная, or unsatisfactory. So there's 3 grades for your behavior, 5 grades for your performance. Alright, so let's take a look. See how I did? This is a little tricks I use sometimes. Russian language I scored 3 times was 4, which is good, and 1 time was 5, but because I passed a final test 5, I got the final grade was 5. So this is how you can cheat the system a little bit. You don't need to study hard all the time, you just study hard 1 quarter, and then if you study hard for your finals, you can get final grade 5. And so, yeah, I did pretty well. If you see, it's only 5s and 4s. Physical education, I could do better. I'm kind of embarrassed. I'm in better physical shape right now when I'm almost 50. When I was a kid and teenager, I didn't work out at all. It's pretty bad. But otherwise, all the grades are 4 and 5. I scored excellent in labor education, in foreign languages, which was English. I scored excellent in geography, all 5s, all the way through. Природоведение, which was botanics. History, algebra and geometry, 4. Then I did really good in Ukrainian literature. So this is what's called хорошист. I had mostly 4 and 5s. For some reason my behavior excellent, and after that is only satisfactory. So it's like I wasn't a perfect pupil. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you think in your comments. I got a couple more diaries to go through, like my 7th grade. I was lazy, I didn't put the cover messages, but check it out. There's the difference. This one says дневник, which is in Russian, and this one says щоденник, which is дневник in Ukrainian. So it's kind of was bouncing back and forth between Russian and Ukrainian language. Alright, guys. Hello, comrades, and welcome back to Ushanka Show. Здравствуйте, дорогие товарищи. My name is Sergey, and I was born in the USSR. So today we are returning to the topic of the Soviet education and Soviet schools. If you guys interested in the topic of education and schooling in Soviet Union, you can check out my playlist, which is called Soviet Education. I have over 20 videos dedicated to that topic, long and boring videos. So today we're going to take a look at my Shodennik, it's Ukrainian word for day planner, or Dnevnik, that's the Russian word for day planner. So this is my Shodennik day planner for the 7th grade, which I attended in 1984 to 1985 in Kiev, Ukraine. So this is the front cover of my Shodennik of the 7th grade. And as I said, this year my parents bought Ukrainian version, so I don't think they cared either way because some of my day planners are in Russian, some in Ukrainian, so whatever was available, that's what they bought. And this is the back cover. Tells you the price, 14 kopecks. It was a standard set up in 1978. And this message is in Ukrainian, of course, and it says young friends. And they talk about fires in the forests. So they tell you what to do, not to play with matches and stuff like that. So there's a message about prevent fires. And some of you probably were already wondering why I never filled the front cover. It's bare, right? You can say the word. The reason is that we actually had a special vinyl covers, and you'll never see the actual cover. So that's the reason I think why I skipped to fill in the front cover, is because I always had a vinyl cover above. Okay, so let's open the planner, and here are the little comments. I wrote my name and last name, and my class was called 7B. So usually we had like 4 classes in each grade. So I was in the 7th grade, and my class was B class. So this is Russian cursive. So my day planner is in Ukrainian, but I wrote everything in Russian. And I think I already covered this message. This is pretty much instructions how to maintain your day planner. And this pretty much tells you that the pupil, student, is supposed to fill in with his homeworks and with schedules. That the teacher, when they give you a grade, they also put the grade in your planner as well as their own class journal that they are supposed to watch and check your day planner periodically and sign in the bottom of each week, and also mark how many days a pupil missed, any comments, and then in the end of the week, every week parents must review the day planner and sign on the bottom too. And all the records in this day planner should be neat and gramotny. I don't know how to say it, like not educated but without any mistakes. Okay, next page, we have a list of the subjects, предметы, and then names and the last names of my teachers. And you should know by now, if you're interested in Soviet Union, Russia, Ukraine, that we don't have middle names in the Soviet Union like Russians or Ukrainians. So I'm Sergey, and then I use my father's name as my middle name. So mine is Sergey Nikolaevich, the one that belongs to Nikolai, and then you have your last name. So here I have a list of our teachers, chemistry, Russian language, algebra, geometry. We'll go through the subjects later, and then have a name of each teacher that taught the subject. So it's kind of reference. If you forgot the name, of course, you'll remember your teachers' names. But each subject was taught by different teacher, except algebra and geometry, same lady, Sonia Yurina. Oh, she was mean. She taught both. And then, of course, Russian language and literature, same teacher, and Russian and Ukrainian language and literature, same teacher. Opposite page, this is my schedule for every day. So as you see, we had 5 or 6 classes every day, including Saturday. So the only day off was Sunday. That's one of the horrible realities of the Soviet school system. Kids had to go to school 6 days a week. So pretty intense. Although later on we'll have 6 classes every day. 7th grade will still have 5 classes. So you pretty much start your day in school at 8:30 a.m. and you're done. If you have 5 classes, you're done about 1 o'clock. If you have 6 classes, you're done at 2 p.m. And you see we use in military time, it's 1400. So I grew up, it's like natural wave of saying time, writing down time in military. And below that, you have we have первое полугодие, второе полугодие, so first half of the year, second half of the year. So teacher put the red ink question mark why I didn't fill that part, but it was exactly the same. So that's already, she was checking my day planner, and every class was 45 minutes with 10 minutes between classes. Okay, so this is the general view of my schedule for a week. It starts September 3, but I don't want to scan the previous page because 1984 was kind of crappy year for the children because September 1st fell on Saturday. So we had to go to school on Saturday and then had Sunday off, and then September 3rd was Monday. So as you see, we already have homework pretty much every day and quite a bit of homework. And September 1st was always called День знаний, the day of knowledge. Everyone hated that day, every single kid. And I said, regardless, even if it falls on Saturday, you go to school just for one day to have day off and then go back to school again. Okay, so what I want to do now is to look every day of the week. And I said we didn't have schedule changed pretty much through the whole year. So we're going to look at subjects we had to study every day of the week, 6 days a week, and we're just going to talk about each subject quickly. So on Mondays, the first class was biology, and some of the books that we had, they were shared books for 2 different grades. So for example, in biology, we used that book for 6th and the 7th grade. So you kept that book over your summer break and you bring that book again, and quite a few books were shared, so there'll be 2 grades in a single book. Our second class on Mondays was physics, and I believe physics started in the 7th grade. We didn't study that before, if I recall correctly. I loved physics. I had mixed feelings. I loved the subject, but because our teacher was very mean and very strict, I kind of was afraid of it too because I struggled with homework. We had quite a complicated homework task. So physics, was mixed feelings about that subject. Third lesson on Mondays was Russian language. So we have a separate Russian language and separate Russian literature. And we already have a homework about to write down in my notebook different expressions about Russian language. So that's interesting. So everyone had to study Russian language. Not everyone had to study Ukrainian language in Ukraine, but everyone had to study Russian language. Lesson number 4 was algebra, and my goodness, our teacher was even meaner than physics teacher, Sonia Yurievna. She was Jewish, female, and my goodness, she terrorized us. I mean, bless her heart, it helped me to learn algebra, but man, we hated her. She always gave us so much homework, and I will provide the link for all these books below this video in the comments section, so you guys check it out. But that was pretty hardcore what we have to study in the 7th grade. And the 5th lesson on Mondays was Ukrainian language. Now that one, if your parents didn't want you to study Ukrainian language, and most Russians, like if they family of military personnel, they'll sign the paper request, hey, we keep on moving from one republic to another, so I don't want my kid to learn Ukrainian because next year maybe we're going to be going to East Germany or Kazakhstan or whatever. So we had like 3 or 4 kids in our class. In class, it's about like 30 kids that they still had to be in class, but they were just reading books or hanging out. I mean, not hanging out, but just sitting waiting for the class to be over. They had to attend, but they didn't have to study or get the grade. Okay, my goodness, we're done with Monday, and now we're looking at Tuesday. So once again, we had 5 classes, but at least the last class was physical education. Физическая культура, we actually called physical culture, physra. So technically it's 4 lessons to sit in class and then you're in the gym. So let's look at that. So on Tuesdays, first class was Russian literature, and we had a book which, there'll be a list of books we had to study, read and study and discuss, write some essays through the year, and then we have a book. It's more like Christomatia, so they have a short review of each book. So quite a few children would cut corners and just kind of read the reviews and write their papers based on reviews, not actually reading the book. But there'll be poems, of course, stories of different famous Russian writers. Second class was history, and in the 7th grade, we actually studied the history of the Soviet Union. So the cover says Istoria SSSR, History of USSR. After history, we had a double whammy. So we had algebra. So you have an algebra on Monday. That means you have a homework for the algebra on Tuesday. And right after algebra class, we have a geometry class. And I think the reason they put it back to back so kids don't have to move from class to class, because same teacher, same classroom. So we basically stayed in the same room for 2 classes. First we had algebra, and then right away Sonia Yurievna will start pounding us with geometry. I don't remember when we actually started geometry. Was it this 7th grade or earlier? But geometry was horrible because there's a lot of theorems, right? You need to memorize, and she made us to write down like 10 times. So you just kind of memorize all those Pythagore theorems about two sides, sum of 2 side squares of the triangle equals the long side squared. I don't know terms in English really well, but yeah, so that was a bad combination. 2 classes back to back, algebra and geometry, was the meanest teacher in school. And the final 5th class was physical education, what is it called? Физическая культура, physical culture. And sometimes we'll be spending time in gym doing different gymnastics. There'll be some requirements, how many times guys can do chin-ups, how many push-ups. We'll go outside, weather permitting, and then we run outside. There's so many meters, and sometimes we'll play soccer. Sometimes we'll play indoor basketball. And we had to bring sports shoes, which sneakers weren't available back then, so everyone used kids. So you bring a uniform with you, and you bring running shoes. So that's what my note says in the day planner, bring the uniform as a reminder. Okay, moving along, we're going into Wednesday classes. And Wednesday, it's a busy day, got a total of 6 classes, but last 2 classes, it's labor education, so 2 of them. So at least you're not sitting, you're still in school, but you don't have to sit in class and struggle. You do something with your hands, so it made it a little bit easier. And by the way, only in America I found out that a lot of people call it Wednesday is a hump day, and they wish each other happy hump day. And sometimes there's cute pictures of pretty girls showing some humps. And I actually thought they're talking about hump day. It's when you just do some humping between weekends, but apparently it's because it's like a hill, right? A hump. So you're almost over the hill, and from there it's downhill. But of course, in Soviet schools, hump day wasn't Wednesday because we had to go to school on Saturdays. Just kind of funny. Okay, so let's take a look what Soviet children had to do on the Soviet non-hump day. We still had to do a lot of humping in school. So first lesson is Ukrainian language, just like we had one on Monday. And second lesson, Ukrainian literature. So same trick, same teacher, same classroom. Kids don't have to move around. I was okay with Ukrainian language literature. Still I was a Russian-speaking Ukrainian, which is kind of sounds weird, but anyways, languages are not like luggage. You don't have to carry them. It's in your head all the time, so no problem there. I'm happy I studied Ukrainian. So third class after Ukrainian language and literature was algebra, once again. So we have algebra on Monday, algebra on Tuesday, algebra on Wednesday, which means you have a homework Monday night, Tuesday night, and then next algebra was coming up Friday. So a lot of homework. So after algebra, we had chemistry. So chemistry was the new class for us in the 7th grade. It's the first time we ever started studying chemistry, and I really loved it. I truly enjoyed it, and my grades were awesome. I had pretty much A's all the way through. A lot of it because teacher was fantastic. Later on, next grade, teachers changed, and I didn't like the teacher, and I slipped in my grades in chemistry. And after chemistry, we had 2 hours or 2 lessons of labor education. We just call it Trud, but I think official name was Трудовое образование, labor education. And the guys go separate room, girls go separate room, so they learn how to cook, how to fix clothing, and other tricks of the trade. And guys will be learning how to fix stuff and make items out of wood and metal. And we also had to bring special uniforms for that. So this concludes Wednesday. Okay, moving on to Thursday. So now we through the middle of the week and now downhill from there. But the first lesson is once again physics. So we had it as a second lesson on Monday. Now it's a first lesson on Thursday. Second class on Thursday was zoology, animals and plants and stuff. Never had problem with that class. Always was pretty much A's. No struggle whatsoever. Next class was English. In fact, official name, and it says in my diary, it says иностранный язык, so its official name was foreign language. But our school was only teaching English as a foreign language. So we started in 4th grade, and now it's a 7th grade, so I'm like super duper advanced. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, we spent 45 minutes every week studying foreign languages. The fourth lesson on Thursday was again physical education, physra. Now, I always hated when physical education classes in the middle of classes. So in this case, we have a total of 6 classes that day, and this is number 4. So you done with physical education, you sweaty. We didn't have showers. So whatever you did, you're tired, you're sweaty, then you change back to school uniform, then you have to sit in class again. So I hated that part. It was awesome if it'd be the last lesson of the day, but middle of the day, it sucked. After physra, we were studying geography. Now, I think geography was my favorite subject overall, like period. I loved it so much. I loved tracing on the maps, finding capitals, different cities, different mountains. I knew by heart locations, where's the Mount Everest, where's tallest mountain in every continent. I could show any ocean right away. So geography was my always favorite subject. And as a cherry on the top, the 6th lesson of the day on Thursday was another Ukrainian literature, which you might have a homework like you have to memorize some poem. So, you're already tired, you had a busy day, you got physics, you got physical education, and then you still need to remember the poem or something like that. So, long, tough day was my Thursday. Well, we finally made it till Friday, but as a Soviet student, I could never understand the expression, thank God it's Friday, because first of all, I don't believe in God, and secondly, who cares about Friday if you still have to go to school on Saturday, right? So this is the repeat of previous classes, so pretty much we had again double whammy, algebra and geometry, first and second class, same teacher, same classroom. So you had homework for both of those, because we always had homework for algebra and geometry. Then you got Russian literature. You might have to study a poem or write some kind of essay. Then we had history and Ukrainian language. So 5 lessons, but first 2 heavy hitters, algebra and geometry. So yeah, Fridays were tough days. Thank God it's Saturday, because this means the end of our struggle in school. And I remember every time I'm getting ready for school on Saturday, I have this thought, this is so not fair, because I see my parents, it's their first day off, they chilling, my dad reads newspaper, watching TV, they relaxed, they need to go to work, and I have to go to school for another 5 lessons. So it's full-blown day, even if it's Saturday. So on Saturday, first lesson was Russian language. Second one, there's another new subject that we got introduced to in the 7th grade was черчение. So that's a technical drawing. Pretty serious subject. 7th grade So we're talking, I'm about, what, 13, 14-year-old kid, and I'm already learning how to do technical drawing. I never had an issue with that. First of all, I have always had neat handwriting, and my mother, that's what she did for a living. She drew technical drawings in an engineering firm, so she always was great help. She had nice pencils and everything else. So, and I think our teacher she was kind of young and really pretty, so that helped too. After Черчения, technical drawing had chemistry again, and here you had to maybe memorize some formulas of different chemical substances. Then we had interesting lesson. Music was our fourth lesson. Never liked that much, and we then study music like it should. This different type of voices, chest voice, belting. I had no clue about anything. Our teacher was pretty much makes us to memorize another song, and then we'll sing it together, and then see you next week. So I never enjoyed music. And the last lesson of the week, Saturday, lesson number 5, was actually, I thought we had only one lesson of English, but actually we had 2 lessons a week. So on Saturdays, the last lesson was also English language, иностранный язык, foreign language. So this is how the week looked for the 7th grade in the Soviet school in the middle of 80s. Okay, so how about we're gonna take a break? I was planning to make it as a one video, but it's already looks like it's gonna be quite a long and maybe boring video. So we're gonna stop right here, and in my next video we're gonna flip through the pages of my day planner of the 7th grade and see some funny notes. I wasn't that good of student in the 7th grade. I'm not sure why. So we're going to take a look at my next video, and I hope you guys learned something new today. We'll talk to you soon. Hello, comrades, and welcome back to Ushanka Show. Здравствуйте, дорогие товарищи. My name is Sergey, and I was born in the USSR. Okay, so today we're gonna finish analyzing my school planner, дневник, or щоденник, as we say in Ukrainian, for the 7th grade, which I attended in 1984-1985 in Kiev, Ukraine. In my previous video, I went into detail to show all the subjects that we had to study in the 7th grade. And today we're just gonna flip through the pages and analyze some cute and not that cute notes that my teachers put in my day planner. Okay, so here we're looking at the week of September 17th. Usually teachers use in red pen to put their marks or any comments or signatures. In this case, some teachers didn't have a pen handy or something like that, so they put, I got a Russian literature, I got 5, which is A, and she put it using black ink. Same, I got geometry, I got 5, which was rare. It was hard to get from Sonia Yurievna. Then my labor education Wednesday have 2 grades, 5 and 4. And also the interesting note is on the bottom. So I wrote a reminder that on September 19 in 1900, once again, using military time, we're going to have родительское собрание. So that's parents-teacher conference in cabinet number 217. So room 217, second floor. There'll be a родительское собрание. And I already, I think, told you many times that we had it not person to person, so you couldn't call it teachers' parents conference. There'll be all the parents in one room, just like students in one room, and teacher will be telling to each parent about their kid, so everyone else would hear. So that was a quite more impactful. I don't know if that is the proper word. So when you being told in front of the other parents that your kid not doing well, it definitely inspires you to talk to a kid in more forced terms about his bad performance in school. So we had the first parents-teachers meeting on September 19th, so only a couple of weeks into the school, we already have a first meeting. Another week, this one is September 24th. Nothing impressive here. Once again, I got 5 on my labor education. Scanner cut it out, but on the right, I have a 5 again, so which is A in Russian language. I have 5 in Ukrainian literature. and 5 in Russian literature. So I did really good. On the bottom, there's a signature of my class leader. The teacher was in charge of our school, our class, I'm sorry, and my father signed. But I want to point you to the note on the bottom left. It says, very interesting thing. My note says that on Monday we have a политинформация at 8 a.m. So политинформация, it's short for политическая информация, political information at 8 a.m. So classes started at 8:30. So on Mondays, besides the fact we had to go to school 6 days a week, on Mondays they want us to come 30 minutes earlier. So we have this political education, political information. It wasn't really a class. We didn't get grades, but we were supposed to pick some article from the newspaper and read it in class so we can discuss the current political events in the Soviet Union and in the world. Okay, so now we're in October, the week of October 1st. I'm still doing great on grades. I got 5 and 4 for Ukrainian language. I got 4 in Russian language. I got 5 in music. And then you see a bunch of these red ink question marks. So our классный руководитель, so we had a teacher who was in charge of our class. Классный руководитель, so like class leader. So she went through my book, my day planner, and she wasn't happy. So her angry note states, write down your homework. So you're supposed to write down homework in every class. Even like if it's a physical education, you need to write bring uniform. And I missed quite a few. So you could tell I put some later because the color of the ink is different. Originally it was dark blue and then I added with the light blue. So yeah, you see, like your teacher will be checking your day planner to make sure you maintain it properly. Uh-oh, my very first dvoika. So if you guys watch my videos about Soviet education, you should be familiar with the grading system. So 5 was excellent, 4 was good, 3 was satisfactory, and 2 was unsatisfactory. So that was already fail. And hardly anyone used 1. Only our teachers of physics, he was the meanest, one of the mean guys. So he's the only one who used 1. Like if you couldn't answer all a question, he'll give you 1. But otherwise, if you tried but you still made a mistake, you were bad, it'll be 2. So here I got 2 in geometry. And as you see, there's a long list of homework. So she gave us pages 5 to 6 to read, and then page 12. And then I needed to memorize some stuff and do some exercises, and I guess I didn't do it well, so I got a bad grade. On the top of it, there's a note on the bottom as well. And it's interesting. It says, не умеет вести себя на переменах. Doesn't know how to behave properly during the breaks. So between classes, it's перемена. So I don't know what I did in the 7th grade. Maybe I was just running and ignoring teachers yelling to stop running. So I did something stupid and got caught, and I got a note in my day planner, my дневник, that I wasn't behaving properly during the break. Moving along, we have a week of November 12th, and I just wanted to show you this page, how much homework we had. Look at this. Chemistry, zoology, English, physics, Ukrainian, geometry, homework after homework. Like on a Friday, November 16th, algebra. Look how many tasks we had there. I got 5 in history. I also had 5 in English language, topic of October Day. Physics gave me 4. And then also I had to memorize some song about composer for music, and I got 4 there. So we had to study a lot. I mean, you come home from school and it's easy 2-3 hours, and I was pretty decent pupil. So you spend every day a lot of time just doing your homework. I had a great next week, week of November 19. As you see my grades, I just kicked ass. On Wednesday, I got 5 in Ukrainian literature. I got 5 in geography, always had 5s. I got 5 in algebra. We had so-called контрольная работа, so that's when it's like a test, small test. I had 5 there. I got 5 in labor. Then, so 4 5s just in one day. Then on Friday, I nailed Russian language, got 5. Next day on Saturday, I got 5 in Russian literature, and music, I got 5. So yeah, I still was a good pupil there. And as a cherry on the top of this excellent week, I also had the thank you note from my class teacher. She wrote, «Объявляю благодарность за добросовестное отношение к поручению». So she gave me some kind of errand to do. Honestly, unfortunately, I don't remember what it was, but I did it so good that she felt like she needed to write it down so my parents know about it. So that's pretty cool, I think. Okay, so now we're jumping into December. This is the week of December 17. So we're getting closer and closer to the biggest, most popular holiday in Soviet Union, New Year celebration. We did not celebrate Christmas. It was called Catholic Christmas, and it was totally ignored. But I had a pretty decent week. I had a 5 in Russian literature. Revizor, that's famous Russian. I forgot the author. Oh my goodness. And then I also have 5 in technical drawing. But I also had a negative note, negative comment in my day planner. And the note says, не умеет вести себя в школе. Поведение неудовлетворительное. And it's dated December 19. So once again, it says can't behave properly in school. So it's interesting. It didn't say in class. It says in school. So I assume it was done again on the break, during the break between classes. In поведение неудовлетворительное, it means your attitude. They also give us grade how we behave in school. So my behavior was неудовлетворительное, which means two, двойка, негативная. Can't remember what I did. I know I wasn't in love back then. It happened next year. I think it relates to our. We had one situation happen in school. They blocked one of the staircase and they said only small kids and teachers can use this staircase, and everybody else needs to go on opposite side of school to use different staircase. And we got mad, and actually they had a couple of people, like also pupils, students blocking. That was their job to watch the traffic. So we broke through and we knocked one of the girls down the stairs, and she got hurt pretty bad. They actually called the militia, cops, and had talked to us. And I think I was one of those guys who was pushing to break through, and I got this note as a reward. All right, so next spread. Here it's interesting, this page. We actually jumped on the left. It's December. So it looks like our classes were over on Wednesday, December the 26th. And from that day, we started our winter holidays. And then my notes begin again on January 17th. So we had pretty much 2 weeks winter canicule, we call it, like winter vacation, winter break. And once again, tons of homework. And as you see, I also have a note on the bottom. And the note says, Сергій погано почав вести себе на уроках, розмовляє. Note is interesting because it's written in Ukrainian. So I assume that's my teacher of Ukrainian language and literature wrote the note. So I began behaving poorly during the classes and I talked. So something was going on. I was chatting with another guy and I was behaving bad enough that she thought that she needed to write it down in my day planner. And you may notice I have a different signature on the right. Sometimes it's my dad's signs, and this is my mother's signature. So signatures change depending who signed my day planner for that week, my dad or my mom. Last week of January, beginning of March, and I had a kick-ass day, kick-ass week. I had a lot of grades. Monday was fantastic. I had 5 in physics, was always hard. I got geography 2 5s, Russian language 5. And then bam, on Tuesday, geometry, I had 1. Look at that. Finally, I had the worst grade you could possibly get. And it says a comment, didn't study the theorems. So this is when we started like hardcore going to theorems. And previous week, I had 2 similar notes. So every lesson of geometry, I wasn't prepared. So I had 3 notes in a row that I didn't study theorems. So Sonia Yurevna, our teacher of geometry, I told you, she was super mean. But then on Wednesday, I got 4 and 5 in English, and the other page is not all the way, but I had some good grades there. actually, I did scan the other side. So on the 31st of January, I had a 244 in zoology, so it's good. It looks like we studied the nervous system. Then on Friday, I got 5 and 4 in Ukrainian language. Then I finally improved myself in geometry, so I had 4, 4, and 5 in geometry, and 3, 4, 5 in algebra. Quite a struggle there. And then on Saturday, history I have 5, and Russian literature I had 5. So quite extensive, intense week, end of January of 1985. Okay, so moving along. So now we're in February, and this week was rough. Looks like I messed up the dates. So I wrote that February 3rd was Monday, but it was February 4th. So my teacher corrected that. I got some decent grades. I got 5 in Ukrainian language, 4 in Ukrainian literature, 4 in algebra, 4 in geometry, and 5 in chemistry. But then we got a couple ugly, ugly notes. The note on the top, it relates, of course, to Monday, and it says «Не готов к политинформации, опоздал». So it says I wasn't ready for political information class and I was late. So it sounds like I forgot about it. I came late, and because I forgot I wasn't ready, so the teacher put the note right above on Monday morning that I wasn't ready for political information and I was late. That's like anti-Soviet activity, isn't it? All right, so the note on the bottom, it's very, very embarrassing, and I wish I remember something about it. I can't believe I don't remember anything because it's a pretty big deal. First of all, it says that on February 6th at 1900, 7 p.m., we have another parents-teacher conference, and it says that Sergei вырвал лист из дневника. So I ripped a page out of my day planner. This is very naughty. And as you see, they didn't have a marks on, I don't know why, but whoever published these day planners, these дневники, they never bothered to put page numbers. So quite a few students, if they got a bad grade and they don't want to get spanked with the belt by parents, they will rip that page and they will copy all over the schedule. And I guess I had a bad grade, so I decided to go for that route, and I got caught. So my teacher marked that I did it. Then she wrote again that I'm consistently being late for political information classes. So I постоянно опаздывает на политинформации. So I was not big fan of getting 30 minutes earlier to school. And then it's keep on going. I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm reading about myself. Then it says that I ушел из классного часа в пятницу. So I left. So we had some additional классный час. So there was additional meeting with the teacher on Friday after classes. And I left. I think everyone did that. We got mad at our teacher because there's no way I would leave by myself. But I think all class decided to just like, screw you, teacher. And we all walked out, didn't wait for her. So she wrote to everyone that we left the so-called class hour on Friday. And then she writes below that, прошу родителей быть на собрании. I request parents to attend this parent-teacher conference, a parent-teacher meeting. That's a hardcore right there. I can't believe it's about me, but it is. Okay, so here we're looking at the week of March 11 of 1985. Just want to show you that I actually was a good pupil. Nailed this week. Got tons of 5s, A's. On Monday, I got 5 on history. On Tuesday, triple 5 for Ukrainian language and 5 for Russian language. And for Russian, not language, literature, we had to memorize the poem about party and Lenin. It says, выучить партия и Ленин. Then I got 5 for labor. Sometimes teacher will tell you put the 5 and I'll sign it, and it looks like he forgot to sign. Then on Thursday I nailed chemistry. I had triple 5 there. Then Ukrainian literature I got another 5 on Friday. And then chemistry and technical drawing 2 5s on Saturday. So I'm a good pupil once again. Okay, so now we jump into the week of April 8, 1985. And a cute note, if you notice on the top right corner, every page is numbered now. So my teacher marked every single page to make sure I won't rip the pages out of my day planner again. So it looks like here we started this new thing about putting my own grades and then teacher will sign, but they never did. So that was a decent week. But check it out. On Saturday, I had 5 in chemistry and then 4 5s on technical drawing. She was so impressed. She signed it, she marked it. So whatever I had to do there, she gave me 4 A's. And that lady, she always wore such a nice tight dress. I'll give her 4 A's for that. Still remember that. Thank you. All right, so we're finally at the end of the class year of 1984-85, my 7th grade. And we're looking at my scorecard, or as we call it, tabel. I believe it originally came from German language. And it's interesting. So this tabel, the scorecard, is actually printed on the top. It says Ministry of Education of Ukrainian Soviet Social Republic, but language is Russian. So this scorecard is in Russian language, but it says it's Ukrainian Education Department. So you see, it says 80-45, my school year. I was ученик, so it's a male pupil of the 7B class, middle school number 223, Sergei, in Kiev and Leningrad region. So the area in Kiev where I studied was called Leningrad region. If you look at the left, there's a comment that says that your class teacher should fill it up, and then he needs to give it every time we finish with a quarter, so the parents will sign. Then it tells you about how you grade it, and it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, as we talked about it. But they also mention, it's funny, they say, there's 5 numbers they can give you digits, right? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But, okay, and then they say your behavior, поведение could be примерное, so excellent, удовлетворительное, satisfactory, and неудовлетворительное, not satisfactory. And then we're supposed to get actually a school ink stamp in the end of the year and signed by director of the school and give it to us. So this tabel was printed in 1983, so pretty fresh, and I got it in 1985. Okay, and here's the actual scores on my scorecard. So you see the list of all the subjects that we studied. We already talked about it. On the top, it's a Russian language, and we had finals on that. So there was finals on Russian language and Russian literature, I believe. So I got 2 grades, 5 and 4, and the total grade for the year was 4. If I'll have 5, I have 5, and then if you see in the 4th quarter, I also have 5. If you have just 1 5 in any of the quarters, and then you have a 5 for your test, the final score will be 5 2. So this is the trick I did for geometry. I had 5 in my very first quarter, and then I had 4s. Then I scored on my test 5, so my final grade was 5. So I don't have to study that hard all through the year. You just make sure you nail the easiest quarter, get excellent grade, and study hard for your test, for your final test. That means you'll get your final score good. Below, way in the bottom, my behavior was удовлетворительно, which is good, nothing impressive. Usually I get excellent. And then in the bottom says a note that I'm transferred to the 8th grade. Unfortunately, there's no ink stamp and no signature from our director of school. I guess he didn't care, but otherwise we can run really quick if you're interested. So Russian language pretty much 4 total for the year. Russian literature 5. Ukrainian language 5, Ukrainian literature 5, algebra 4, geometry 4, but the total is 5 because of my excellent test taken. History, as you see, of USSR was 5 everywhere. Every single was 5. Природоведение, that's zoology we studied, was 5. Geography, all 5s. Physics, 5. Nailed that one. Drawing, technical drawing, 5. Chemistry, 5. Foreign language, which was English, 5. Music, I only had 2 first quarters, and then I'm not sure what happened. I think teacher got sick, so we didn't ever get scored, but they didn't care really about it. Physical education, 5. and Labor Education 5. So this is concludes my story about my 7th grade. I hope you guys like the story. And as always, don't forget to like this video, share with your friends, and if you want to support my channel, you can always buy my book, American Diaries, is available on Amazon.com. Thank you.
各位观众、同志们，大家好，欢迎收看苏联谢尔盖同志主持的节目《雷锋茂秀》。
How cool was that? Well, this is thanks to my comrade Senui from China, who recorded this greeting, and it literally translates as greetings to all members of the audience and comrades. Welcome to Ushanka Show, hosted by Comrade Sergei of the Soviet Union. So today we return to the topic of the Soviet education, Soviet schools, and we're going to take a look at my diary, Dnevnik, my school planner from my 8th grade, which I studied in 1985 to 1986. So this is my class, 8B class of the school number 254 in Kiev, Soviet Ukraine. And as I already said, we graduated 8th grade in May of 1986. Our finals happened in the end of May, so about a month after, on April 26, 1986, the Chernobyl power plant unit number 4 exploded. I covered the topic of Chernobyl power plant and my witness account while being in Kiev, just like 50 kilometers south from Chernobyl, in quite a few videos. So if you're new to my channel, you're welcome to check it out. I got like 3 or 4 videos about it. But today we're going to talk about education in the Soviet Union, and we're going to talk about 8th grade. As you see, we had a quite large class. I actually had to recount 39 children in my class, and we had 4 classes like that. So in that school was 8th grade had 4 classes, and I would assume that we also had 4 classes all the way to the 1st grade and up to the 10th grade. So we can calculate total amount of kids. But one class, single class, had like close to 40 children. So I quickly ran the calculator. So it seems like we had about 15 to 1600 children in a single school. But you know, it's in a big city, but still that's a lot of children in a one single building. Now, 8th grade was an important milestone in every student's life, because the 8th grade is when you're done with, we call it in Russian, неполное среднее образование. So it's like not complete medium education. It's kind of weird to translate, but basically 9th and 10th grade, it's where the high school starts. So in 8th grade, teacher pretty much gonna talk to parents and remove all the knives out of the drawer that not sharp enough. Let's put it that way. So kids that not strong enough to keep on going, and they will be recommended to leave school right now and go to like trade school or just go straight to factory. I calculated again, and it seems like 24 kids. So out of 39 kids, 24 kids left the school after finishing the 8th grade. And sometimes some of these kids were actually smart and had really good grades, but they wanted to pursue different career. And other kids that were not good, they actually stayed and finished the 9th and the 10th grade. So it wasn't like a strict requirement, looking at the grades and tests to say, okay, your kid has to leave. Parents still had a choice. So we are looking at the cover of my day planner Dnevnik from the 8th grade here. And it seems like that confusion looks like my mom was filling up because it's my mom's handwriting for the 7th grade, because it says 8045, but inside it will say that it's the 8th grade. So I'm not sure what happened, but originally she was planning to use this Dnevnik for the 7th grade. On the back cover, it's once again they're talking to young friends, what causes fires in the buildings or in the woods. And it says this price of this Dnevnik was 14 kopecks. So we're talking 1985 to 1986. So also on the cover of this Dnevnik, it says that it's good for the classes from the 3rd to 10th. So it's kind of universal type of document. And here we have rules. On the top, it's my name that I worked through that special pattern plastic thing that I forgot what it's called. And it says the rules for the pupils from 1st to 3rd grade. And I think we already talked about it. I don't want to get into details, but it's carry with pride name of the Soviet student, be proud of your school and your class, pay attention in class, do good job with the homework, take care of the school goods and your goods, be nice to nature, wear school uniform, pay attention to the schedule, utilize your free time, разумно, smartly utilize your free time, read books, participate in sports and stuff like that. So there's all 10 points of what to do for the children, for the students from 1st to 3rd grade. Next 2 pages we have rules for the students of from the 4th to 8th grade on the left and from the 9th to 10th grade on the right. And here it goes a little bit more to be patriot of your Soviet motherland and to be internationalist and to be преданный, I don't know how to translate, so like follow great Lenin, and then it goes again about to do, wear uniform, respect your and other people's time. So a lot of good points. So 12 rules for the 4th, 8th grade and 13 rules for the 9 and 10. And the last one, number 13, carry with pride the name of the Soviet citizen and student. So here, you becoming a Soviet citizen age of 16. So this is what they added, to be a proud Soviet citizen. Next page, we have the list of the subjects being taught in the 8th grade and teachers. And usually, like Russian language and Russian literature, there'll be same teacher. Ukrainian language, Ukrainian literature, same, different teacher, but also covering both topics. And quite often, same with algebra and geometry, there'll be same teacher covering this both subjects. In interesting detail, I think it was me, but you see this next to the names to the right, there's little check marks. And if I like somebody, check mark is pointing up. If I didn't like the teacher, check mark is pointing down. So it's like a V. And then if it's to the right, it's so-so. I didn't mind them either way. I don't remember doing that, but it's there. It's kind of funny. And once again, on the right side, the schedule of my lessons. I didn't write the part of which classes when, but I wrote what time. So the classes started at 8:30 in the morning, 45 minutes each class, a 10-minute break between classes. And if you had 6 classes in a day, your last lesson ends at 1400, which is 2 p.m. for those who can't handle military time. And just a friendly reminder that in Soviet schools we had to go to school 6 days a week. So we had to go to school on Saturday. And it's kind of funny detail. Those ink stamps, it's actually what it says, paid Velkaya Sam. So this is the little stamp that says that you paid your dues being a young Leninist Komsomol member. So I became a Komsomol member in the 8th grade, and somehow I got hold of that little stamp, so I just stamped everything on this grade. But before we start grinding into this long and boring video about my 8th grade subjects, I want to mention one somewhat cute detail. The 8th grade was the year when I madly fell in love with this girl named Ira, and it was horrible. My grades fell. But I wanted to go to school. Like, I hated the weekends because I was away from her. We were sitting at the same desk next to each other. So this is sad, but I waited for every Monday so I can go back to school and see her. We never actually dated, but I was madly in love with her. So now let's take a look what subject the Soviet students had to study in the 8th grade. First one is chemistry. Russian language, русский язык, and Russian literature, русская литература. I never had a problem with those, but for some reason I never could excel and get 5, which is excellent. I always had 4th all through the school. Ukrainian language and Ukrainian literature. Since we were in Ukraine, we studied also Ukrainian language literature, although our school, like most schools in Kiev, were Russian-speaking school. And quite a few people were asking what is the difference between Russian language and Ukrainian language. It's kind of similar, like difference between Portuguese and Spanish. They're pretty close, and you need a little practice to understand, but it's Slavic languages, so like every Ukrainian understands Russian, but not every Russian understands Ukrainian. Algebra and geometry. So same teacher taught us both subjects. We didn't have that mean teacher we had in the 7th grade, Sonia Yurievna. Oh, she was just mean. But still, I wasn't a big fan of math, but I always had a 4 or 5 decent grade. Next subject is history. I always loved history, always had excellent grades. But then later I found out a lot of stuff that we were learning was not truth. Geography, geografia. I think this hands down my favorite subject. Always loved it, always had excellent grade. And my favorite thing to do was on geography classes. It's when other kid will be by the world map and we asked him questions. I had always a couple of tricky questions, like I'll ask, hey, show us Mount Everest. Although on the map it would say Mount Jamalugma, and it will confuse a lot of kids, and that was my always like mean question to ask. Biology, biologia, it was okay. Of course, it depends a lot on the teacher. Our teacher was fine. Neither great, neither horrible. Physics, physica. I like the subject, but we had so much homework, and the task they gave us to do at home was quite complicated calculations. You know, there'll be something like object falling from such a height, and gotta figure out the gravity and the thickness of the air and stuff like that. So I struggle with those a little bit. So physics, physica. Technical drawing, or we call it черчение. Never had a problem with that. Always had excellent grades. My mom, that's what she did for living. She was making technical drawings for engineers. So she helped me a lot, and I always had a neat handwriting, so I had always good grades on черчение. Physical education, or as we call it, physical culture, физическая культура or физра. English language, английский язык. Official name was foreign language, and like my mother, she was learning German, but later most Soviet schools were switched to English because they needed translators. In case the war with America, there'll be a lot of American POWs, so we needed people, translators, to talk to them. Next one is labor education, as we call it, трудовое обучение, or just simply trud, labor. That's when the boys and girls split, and the guys learning how to work with tools, and girls learn how to cook and fix clothing. And the last subject was the basics of the social science, основы обществоведения. This is actually I had to learn, go to the Google Translate and translate обществоведение. I had no idea how to translate it, but apparently it's social science. Okay, so let's take a look at the very first week of our school year of 1985. And I actually asked Google, hey Google, what day of the week was September 2nd, 1985? And Google confirmed it was Monday. So that was a good year. So usually school starts on September 1st, but since September 1st was Sunday, we started school on 2nd. As you can see, there is no mercy. Every day we had 6 classes. 8th grade, it's kind of like it's not kindergarten anymore, right? So like Monday we had math, biology, physical education, physics, Ukrainian literature, and Russian literature. Once again, physical education, the 3rd lesson, which I always hated because you get sweaty during exercising in the gym, then you have to change again. We had no showers in our school, and then you go sit in class again, so that was pretty bad. On Tuesday, we had Ukrainian language, already had a homework, chemistry, the history of Soviet Union, math, and 2 final lessons were labor education. On Wednesday, we had Ukrainian language, biology, new history. So we had actually several histories going on in 8th grade. History of the USSR, and then new history. I need to look it up with that. I don't remember now. Then physics again, Russian language, and Russian literature. So first week of the school, and I'm already getting some decent grades. As you see on this scan, I got 4, which is good for Ukrainian language on Thursday. Then I got 4 for history, 4 for social science, 5 for geometry, and then on Saturday, and once again, we have to go to school on Saturdays. I got 3 5, so that's excellent grade. It's A. Russian literature, algebra, and geometry. So I really kicked butt on Saturday. And quickly, let's go through the classes. So on Thursday, September 5th, and usually the schedule remained the same all through the year. Algebra, physical education, once again in the middle of the classes. Chemistry, English language, Ukrainian language, and once again Prava, which is social science. On Friday, we started the day with history, then social science again, geometry, chemistry, geography, and biology. 6 classes, pretty heavy day. And Saturday, looks like we had only 5 classes: geography, Ukrainian language, Russian literature, and as a cherry on the top, algebra and geometry. So it's bad enough in school on Saturday. Last 2 classes, you got double whammy, algebra and geometry. Okay, so here we're jumping into October. On October 22nd, Tuesday, I had a bad comment about my attitude during the Russian language class. And it's, you see in the red ink as supposed to, it says that I behaved improperly in the class was dedicated to the history of the Communist Party. That's pretty interesting. So I was showing some improper behavior in a class dedicated to the history of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. So that's interesting. I don't remember all this, but there's a note. Can erase it from my diary. And interesting also, I always loved geography, but geography of the 8th grade was more about industries of the Soviet Union than actual geography. So like on that day, we studied машиностроение, so it's like industrial construction, like what factories were located and where and what we were building in Soviet Union. Really boring topic. And now we're in November. So I had 2 comments again. So besides the good grades, you see I had a 5, which is excellent on English. And then I had physics, I had Russian literature, and then a comment on Wednesday for Ukrainian language that I did not participate in the lesson. I believe the whole class left. We had some issue with the teacher, and for some reason we were so mad that we just didn't show up for her class for Ukrainian language on Wednesday, and then again we didn't show up for Ukrainian literature, so it's the same teacher next day on Thursday. Not sure what was going on, but I think it was the whole class, because there's no way I would just skip the class on my own. I was too nerdy for that. Another interesting comment from December the 12th, so the 12th day of the 12th month. For algebra, I got 2, which is bad, like failure, but it's not a grade. It says поведение. So I was behaving improperly during that class. I'm not sure why. As I mentioned earlier, I had this horrible crush on Ira, and she was next to me in class. Maybe we were giggling or something. I'm not sure what was going on, but it's not about how I studied. It's actually about my attitude during that class. I had pretty much it's D for that. And also a cute little detail, if you notice, my pages become numbered again. So I was trying to rip the pages out of my diary again, just like a diary, дневник, and this notebook. Now we're in February, and I notice that on that page in February 6th, which was Thursday, I put a little stamp. For some reason I glue it up there, and it's actually like if you are a friend of the nature, so we had this юный naturalist, like a young naturalist, and you can pay dues, which was 5 kopecks into the fund to protect nature. So I don't know what I got that stamp, but I glue right into it. And I had decent grades end of the week, a bunch of 4s and a bunch of 5s. So I did pretty good that week. On February 10, I got the lowest grade possible in a Soviet school, 1, or as this teacher of physics said, kol. Kol is pretty much like a steak, wooden steak, because it's shaped like it, right? So he always will tell you, I'm giving you a call. Даю вам call, или ставлю вам call. So like, I drive the stake through your heart. He was a Jewish guy, our physics teacher, and he was really mean. I mean, he was fair but mean. So he always would call maybe one or two pupils in the beginning of a class and had some questions related to previous physics class. And if you had no idea, then he'll give you one. If you can answer a little bit, then you might get a better grade. But one is ultimate failure. Two was failure. So one was even worse. Like, it was the only teacher who ever used one as a grade. Now we're jumping all the way into April. And look at this. Saturday, April 26, 1986. The world is on fire. There are already people dying from radioactive poisoning in Chernobyl power plant. And we just sit in class because we have algebra, physics, geography, Russian literature, physical education, and foreign language to study. And there's already radioactive cloud is moving towards Kiev, which is only 50 kilometers south from Chernobyl power plant. But we end up staying in school all the way to end of May because we had to pass our finals. And I could get out from Kiev only by like early June. And I already described my story in the video Train to Leningrad. This is the end of the book. And here I tracked my grades through every quarter. We have so-called tabel scorecard. I cannot locate right now. I have it somewhere, I believe. This is the subjects that I studied that year, and then my grades through every quarter. And then we had final tests in the end. And then you have final grade. So what I did in Ukrainian language, which is the very first line, I had 5 only once, but then I scored 5 on my test, and I got 5 as the final. So you don't have to study hard all through the year. You just need to hit it hard one quarter and make sure you do good on the test, and then you get excellent grade in the end. Same, kind of similar with Ukrainian literature. I had 50-50, 2 4s, 2 5s, scored excellent on a test and got my final grade. Couldn't pull it on algebra. Had that opportunity, but as you see, I scored only 4. And here the last page of my dnevnik, my school notebook, and I got instructions how to maintain your dnevnik. So it basically tells you that every day you need to write down your homework, and then the teacher need to put the grade in his class book and then transfer to my dnevnik as well and sign it. Every week, teacher is supposed to check pupils' dnevniks and make sure they're all up to standard. All the comments need to be written down. In the end of every week, parents should check their dnevnik and sign it. And all the notes in dnevnik should be written correctly, without mistakes, and neatly. So this concludes my story about my school year of 1985-1986, when I finished the 8th grade. We start school usually at 7 and had 10 years. So after 8th grade, as I mentioned earlier in the beginning of this video, kids will split. Some will leave and go to trade schools or go work. And the smarter ones will remain going to, we'll call it high school. Never called it high school, but there'll be 9th and 10th grade. So about 50% of kids would leave, and we had our 4 classes got combined in 2 classes. So I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you soon. Здравствуйте, дорогие товарищи. My name is Sergey, and I was born in July 1971 in Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic.
各位观众、同志们，大家好，欢迎收看苏联谢尔盖同志主持的节目《雷锋茂秀》。
My special thanks и огромное спасибо to all my supporters on Patreon.com. Thank you, comrades. It's greatly appreciated. Today we are returning to the topic of education in the Soviet Union, and I'm going to show you the subjects that I learned in the 9th grade, and that was in 1986-1987 in Kiev, Ukraine. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to locate my dnevnik, my daily planner. I believe I spilled some chemical during a chemistry lesson and it kind of got destroyed. but I still have my tabel, my scorecard from the ninth grade. So we're going to take a look at that. So here we go. There's my tabel, my scorecard, and quite a few viewers commented that they impressed how much stuff I hoarded, I saved from those good old Soviet days. But this is thanks to my mom. She kept it. Of course, I cared less about that stuff at that time, but I think she knew that sometimes in the future her son will be having a YouTube channel and telling stories about his life in Soviet Union. So thanks to my mom, now we got these awesome documents that we can study together. Okay, so here we go. We got the emblem of the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic on the top. Below, Министерство просвещения УССР, Ministry of Education of Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, tabel, scorecard, years 1986-87, pupil or student 9B Bravo class, and we call it средняя школа, so like middle school, but this is, we're talking high school if we compare it to America. Number 254, Polishuk Sergei Nikolaevich, that's my name, and it's in Kiev. On the back, and if you watch my channel, if you watched the videos before about my school years, you're probably familiar with that. It just says comments, примечания. That scorecard should be filled in by our class leader, the teacher. In the end of each quarter, he will give pupil, a student, we used to say pupil all the time, the scorecard, and they take to parents, and they need to sign it. And scorecard should be kept in school. You got grades, 5, which is excellent, 4 is good, 3 is satisfactory, 2 is unsatisfactory, and 1 is complete failure. And also they grade your attitude, поведение, примерное, so it's like excellent, удовлетворительное, decent, and неудовлетворительное, unsatisfactory. And in the end of the school year, the scorecard should be all filled in, had a signature of director of school, and ink pen stamp, and should be given to the student. This scorecard was typed in 1984 in Vin Obl typography, so in Vinnytsia, one of the cities in Ukraine, and they printed 3,600,000 of those, quite a bit. Okay, so let's take a look what subjects did the Soviet students study in the ninth grade. And we started school at age of 7, so you finish pretty much at the age of 17, 16. So that's about 15-year-olds. And it's interesting, we didn't study Russian language. The first line is Russian language. It was not a subject anymore, but we still studied Russian literature. And as you see, I did okay. Only 1.5, 1 excellent, and annual final grade was only 4 good. Similar situation with Ukrainian language. We didn't study that subject in ninth grade, but we still studied Ukrainian literature. I just did good. And this scorecard is actually in Russian language. So although it was printed in Ukraine and was printed for Ukrainian Ministry of Education, the actual scorecard is in Russian. And just a quick reminder, in the 8th grade, so prior year, that's when a lot of kids left school. So once you got 8 years in school, you can leave and go to trade school or go straight to factory. So then they combine classes. So this was a different year for me because, I had same children, same kids I was studying with from the 4th grade. So you kind of, know each other. And suddenly in the 9th grade, they combine us with the other class. So there's totally different people, different girls, different guys. So that was quite a different experience. Next 2 subjects goes hand in hand. We had algebra and geometry. And I believe we had a different teacher. She was fresh out of college, a young Jewish lady, quite pretty. And she wasn't as mean as Sonia Yurievna, that older math teacher that we had before. So I scored decent, and I actually managed to have on my finals get 5 excellent on geometry. But since I didn't have any 5s during the year, my final score was also a 4, which is just good. Next subject is the history of the USSR, Historia SSR. As you see, my scores were impeccable. I think I used the word correctly. Never had a problem with history, although later I found out what they taught us was a lot of information that wasn't, let's put it that way, wasn't that correct. Next subject, geography. As you see, there's another impeccable performance. Everything is excellent, all fives. Final test 5, and the final score is also 5. Always like geography. Next after geography is biology. Didn't do too bad either. Got my finals also excellent. It was easy for me. I mean, I didn't enjoy it much, but biology was always pretty easy. Next subject was physics. Not too bad there. Solid 4. We still had the same teacher. This Jewish guy. He was a great teacher, but he was really strict, and he always gave us so much homework. That was just, I think, was too much, but he was a great teacher. Next 2 empty lines is astronomy and черчение, technical drawing. We didn't do those subjects in the 9th grade. And after that is chemistry. Once again, just like physics, solid 4. Next subject is foreign language. So it's just kind of like generic term. But in the 80s, most schools were teaching English, английский язык. And you see, Comrade Sergei was getting ready to become Comrade Sputnikov or even Comrade John Wayne Cheeseburger. One of my wildest dreams, I could imagine somebody would call me that. But as you see, I got another excellent performance. Everything was excellent. So, all good there. The missing line is изобразительное искусство, which is like art. But then it's interesting. So it actually says musica, music. But you see that handwritten note? It says inform, which means informatica. So this is very cool. Our school, number 254, one of the first schools in Kiev that got computers. So this is informatica, information technologies, I guess you can translate. So this is when we started studying computers, and I did really good there. Next line is физическая культура, physical education, or as we call it, FISRA, and that's pretty sad. I got 3, and then 4s. I was in very poor physical shape in the 9th and the 10th grade. Like, I actually in better shape right now, being 49. And of course, you probably remember when I was showing off my slender body in those sexy Speedos in Lake Michigan, but that happened later in about 9 years. After I was done with school, I actually got into bodybuilding, weightlifting, and it's changed a lot. Started riding the bike, but man, 9th grade, I could barely do 10 push-ups. Next one is трудовое обучение, labor education. So this is actually when we left school and we went to special outfit, and that's what we were getting, our labor education. Actually, some guys managed to get a driver's license to drive a truck, but there was so many people wanted to do it. I ended up just being slesar, so like a metal worker. So I did pretty good there, nothing impressive. And the last subject for the 9th grade, начальная военная подготовка. Initially, military preparedness, NVP. We talked about it already. I told you I had a whole video, or a couple of videos on that topic. So I did okay. Second quarter, for some reason, got 3, but then I fixed it, so I got solid 4s. Next line, поведение. So that's your attitude in school, or how do you behave. Behavior, I guess. Примерное, so excellent. I was a good pupil, good student. And below it says количество пропущенных уроков. So it's how many lessons I missed, usually due to illness. Looks like I missed 15 classes in the second quarter. And below that we got teacher signatures, my parents' signatures. That's my mom's. And then says that I was transferred to the 10th grade. Unfortunately, there's no ink stamp. So here we are. This is what Soviet school scorecard tabel looked like. And this is mine from 1986 and 1987 school year for my 9th grade. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you soon. Здравствуйте, дорогие товарищи. В эфире программа Ushanka Show. My name is Sergey, and I got my education in the Soviet Union. And this is actually my graduation picture from the 1988. I was almost 17 on this picture. I was a member of the Young Communist Youth, Komsomol, and I want to cry when I see those horrible birth control glasses. So today we're going to talk about Soviet education. We're going to take a look at my school day planner from the 10th grade. And we're going to take a look at what subjects did the Soviet students study in the 10th grade, which was the last year of the Soviet high school. I went to school for a total of 10 years, but I had to go to school every Saturday, 6 days a week. And by the way, if you're interested in the topic of Soviet education, you can check out my playlist called Soviet Education. I already have 17 videos dedicated to a topic of pretty much my experience going to kindergarten and going to school in Kiev, Ukraine in 1970s, 1980s. So if you're interested, check it out, my playlist, Soviet Education. So here's the picture from my school album from the 10th grade. Right in the middle, it's my school number 254. In Soviet Union, we didn't have any names for schools, like here we got Shamrocks or whatever, just number 254. And behind you could see that 9-story building. It's actually my apartment building. So I lived very, very close to my school, which I went 8th, 9th, and 10th grade. And here's some teachers. English teacher, history, physics, military training and such. So this is what teachers looked like in Soviet Union. But before I start my long and boring video about subjects that we studied in the 10th grade, let's talk about love. So this is Ira, the girl I had a horrible crush in the 8th grade. Although she had pretty poor grades, she didn't leave after 8th grade. She went to 9th and 10th. I kind of made myself stop loving her, but I still had a kind of little crush on her even in 9th and 10th grade, but she started dating a different guy. And this is Oksana that I had crush on in the 10th grade. She had a beautiful smile and beautiful legs that was impossible not to notice because her skirt was so short. Okay, and now back to our main topic. This is the cover of my day planner, Dnevnik, from the 10th grade, year of 1987-88. And this Dnevnik is in Russian language. And this is the back cover, standard message, young friends, do you know why fires are happening? Why fire becomes the enemy and causes a lot of damage. So basically talking about wildfires are happening. It's kind of actual right now for the situation that's going on in California and Oregon. Price is 15 kopecks and it was printed in Zhytomyr. First page, typical rules for students, and that funny spot in the top right corner, that was from chemistry. We were working with some acids and I did the experiment, dropped a little bit of acid on the top of my day planner and it burned through the pages. So that's kind of memory of me being interested in chemistry. And it's this amazing stuff. It's all these rules for the students. Be a citizen of your socialist motherland, active builder of communism, perform the Zavyety of the great Lenin, work, study, and live communist style, prepare yourself for defending of socialist motherland, and so on and so on and so on. Pretty impressive. And here we have a general view of my weekly schedule for September, and it's pretty much the same through the year. And I just wanted to remind you guys that we didn't change children year after year. Like in American school, they rotate children. Like every new year, they have a different kids in classes. Usually, there'll be same group of kids pretty much from first grade all the way to the 8th grade. Just kind of a little notice. But anyway, so 6 days a week again, as always. 6 lessons every day, 45 minutes each. And you may notice that there's nothing on the schedule for Wednesdays because we had so-called UPK, учебно-производственный комбинат. So that's when we went to get labor education to the different facility. It was actually almost 40 minutes by bus from my place to get to the place where I was actually doing metal work. And that would happen once a week. And then in the end of the year, I believe we spent like 1 or 2 weeks just working at some factory to get like the skills according to what specialty you picked. So let's take a look at the subjects that we had to study. So on Monday, first lesson was algebra. Second lesson was chemistry, which in the 10th grade was organic chemistry. A lot of formulas, a little lab work. Wasn't a big fan of that subject. Our third lesson on Monday was Russian literature, and it looks like we studied Maxim Gorky stories. So my homework notes say that I need to read story Makar Chudra. Don't remember anything about it besides that I looked it up. It's about gypsies, and they actually made a movie based on his story called Tabar уходит в небо. And the second story was Starucha Izergil, Old Izergil. He wrote that story in 1895, and it's about old gypsy lady that shared the story of her life. The fourth class on Monday was Informatica, computer science. And I already mentioned that I believe like my class was the very first class in the Soviet school that started computer science. It started in, I believe, in the 8th grade. I already don't remember. I was talking about it, but that's why we had a special room with computers. And it was a one central unit, CPU, I believe, whatever it's called. And then, of course, each other was just a screen and a keyboard connected to the central processing unit. Our lesson number 5 on Mondays was physics. And I always had mixed feelings about it since our teacher was very strict and gave us tons of homework. But I like the practical part of different experiments in class, and I learned a lot of practical things too. Like I remember one time he was asking a question, who can tell me why moon looks like shining way brighter in the winter than in the summer? And no one could answer, and he said because snow reflects the moonlight. And it was like so obvious, but no one could think about it. And the 6th lesson of Mondays was NVP, Initial Military Training. I already had quite a few videos about that specific topic. That was kind of like taking a break after physics and chemistry and algebra, and I truly enjoyed our teacher. He was a retired colonel, can say the word, полковник of the Soviet Army. He was very smart, and everyone enjoyed that class. Okay, so what else did we study 10th grade? If we look at the Tuesday, the September 22nd, the first lesson was Ukrainian literature. And it's interesting, it says, learn Lenin. So I guess there was some poem in Ukrainian language called Lenin. I had to know it by that day. And this is actual picture of our class and our teacher of Ukrainian language and literature. Unfortunately, I don't remember her name anymore. Well, I remember that when she gave you 3 grade, which is satisfactory, so it's not really good. She always would say, I'll give you Troyanda, because Troika or Trika and Troyanda. So Troyanda means rose. So she said, I give you a rose. That means she gives you 3, which is not a good grade. But you could see how our desk looked like, quite basic. Desk and chairs, 2 people per desk. Usually teacher assigned us to the desk, so you didn't have a choice where you're going to sit. You can't see me in this photo. I'm to the right, kind of cut off on that shot, but you can see Ira, the girl I had a crush on. She's sitting next to her boyfriend that became her husband later on. Also on Tuesday, the 3rd lesson was geometry. I kind of had mixed feelings about geometry. Originally, we had a really mean older teacher, and she was really strict, so it's hard to have a warm feelings toward the subject when you constantly have to spend hours doing homework and memorizing different theorems. But then we got this new teacher, which is on this picture, fresh out of college, a young Jewish lady. She was quite pretty and had a nice rack, so then geometry became a way more tolerable subject. Next class on Tuesday was иностранный язык, in Yaz, which is foreign language. In my case was English. And it stayed English from the fourth grade all the way to the 10th. Like here in America, my kids swapping. One year it's Korean, another year they decided to study Spanish. We had no choice. The whole school would be English as a foreign language, and that's it. That looks like I had to study something about Canada, and I always had top grades in English. Also that day we had FISRA, physical education, физическая культура. We talked about it already. There's not much sportswear going on, at least in our school. We didn't have like soccer competition with other teams or anything like that. And the last lesson was history, which we studied history of the Soviet Union. And it says a little line that says informatica, so it looks like sometimes it was substituted with computer science. I'm not sure why. Twice a week on Thursday and I believe Saturday we had обществоведение, which is kind of like a social studies. It's when they explain us difference between capitalist society and socialist society. And the funny thing, our teacher, he also was Jewish, later immigrated to Israel. So he was teaching us about benefits and stuff like that of socialist society. Then he left the country and went to Israel. So most classes we had twice a week, except astronomy. So the last lesson on the last day of the week on Saturdays was astronomy. There was a brand new class. It's also only in the 10th grade. And it would be easily my favorite class because I love science fiction, especially back then. You know, reading everything about space travel, knowing about planets and everything like that. But it was the last lesson on the last day, and everyone was tired, including the teacher, who was actually same teacher who taught us physics, also taught us astronomy. So that class, unfortunately, was just check mark in the book. We never did any field trips to observatories, anything like that. So it could be an awesome class, but unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. Okay, so we're actually done with the subjects that we studied in the 10th grade, and now quickly we're going to look at a couple of pages, most interesting things that happened in 1987-88 in school for me. So there's my grades in September. And if you notice, signature is the same. So I think what happened in the end of the week, our class leader teacher, who was also a teacher of English, she was transferring grades from her book. So she had a book that was all the grades for all the kids, and then she transferred them on our planners because signature is the same. And then the bottom, she signed it, my mom signed it as her signature, and way below says прилежание удовлетворительное and поведение удовлетворительное. So attitude was satisfactory, and behavior, my behavior in class was satisfactory. Otherwise, algebra I got 4 and 5, which is good and excellent. Chemistry was not as good, 3 and 4. Ukrainian literature 4. History 5, 4, 5. Russian literature 4, 4, 4. And that's it for that week. So she just kind of put the total grades in red ink, which is usually teachers do. This page caught my eye, so that happened in October. So on the bottom, red ink says «Дирекция школы выносит благодарность Сергею за работу в столовой». So actually the school director was saying special thanks to me for helping in the cafeteria. I don't remember what I did there, but it's kind of cool. And on the right side, on the other page, says that my behavior that week was excellent, примерно. And another thing I want to point out for you guys, I started slowly switching my handwriting from cursive to print. A little bit here and there, you can notice that I'm starting printing instead of having cursive. So the 10th grade, I don't know why, don't remember why, but I decided to switch my handwriting from cursive to printing. Another interesting note right here that I wrote down for myself, that on January 29, 1988, in 9 o'clock in the morning, to show up by the военкомат. So that's that military outfit that tracks all the males in the area. I already had videos about it, but this is my record. So instead of school, all the boys went to военкомат to get their medical done and get on the record to be ready to be drafted next year because you finished school in 88, age of 17. And next year, 1989, my generation was ready to be drafted in the Soviet Army. If you comrades still with me, listening to this long and boring video, thank you so much for your patience. We're almost there. So this is the last page of my school planner for the 10th grade. I got a little bit cut out here on the left side. But as you see, I printed all my subjects and I was tracking my scores for every quarter except the fourth. So Russian literature, Ukrainian literature, algebra, geometry, pretty much everything is 4. Physics, astronomy, foreign language, physical education, UPK, chemistry, biology, history, обществоведение, and NVP. So I was a solid A-B student, I would say that way. They call it хорошист in Russian. On the opposite side, you might recognize there's some English. So I was writing down description of Kiev. Kiev is the capital of Ukrainian USSR. It's a large political, industrial, cultural center. It is a hero city. Its population nearly 3 million people. Kiev is situated on Dnieper, the longest river in the Ukraine. Here go the Ukraine. Kiev is one of the oldest cities of Europe. It was founded 1500 years ago. There are many monuments in Kiev. So I was preparing for some kind of presentation in English class. And below that, if you notice, there's something from computer science. Control Q will launch the program. So I was writing a little cheat list for my computer class. Okay, so this concludes the story about the subjects that Soviet students had to study in the 10th grade. This is actual photo again from our class, and here you can, if you pay attention, recognize where's Comrade Sergey. And on the opposite left side, looks like Ira is still looking at me a little bit. So this was during our chemistry class, chemistry teacher, and yes, here we are. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, I enjoy your comments. Don't forget to like it, and we'll talk to you soon.